6:15. Okay. First item on the, are you guys all ready?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Discussion and possible action on the meeting minutes from January 9th, 2017. Just take consensus. Kathy, we'll start with you.
Yes.
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 And yes. All right, the cafeteria financial report.
Good evening, Board. This evening, we prepared, in conjunction with Ed, the report which you're viewing right now. And it does show that we have made substantial gains in the income side for the same period of time in last year. We also show it that the board also gave us assistance. We show that we did spend a little bit more, but if we took in a lot more, we just spent a few dollars more than we took in. And I would be more than happy to address any questions that you have concerning this report.
Jay?
Yeah. So far this year, we've had, how much of a loss?
Pardon me?
So far this year, we have, this is through, or this is a projection through year end?
Which one are you looking at? This,
I'm sorry.
I have the board report, this one here.
Oh, you got that one, okay.
Yeah. And then what I did pass out is a projection report.
Okay. Oh, that one. My numbers are sideways there.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead.
No, you
I'll
go
wait,
ahead.
I'll wait.
No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'll wait to get to the other one.
Well,
Oh, please.
Yes.
okay, so all right, so if I'm reading this correctly, on the income side in January, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year was 154 roughly, and then this year it's 163.6
Correct.
roughly. So last year expenses was 138 versus 148.
Correct.
I mean, net, they come out to be about the same, really.
Yeah, very close, but what
Yeah.
happens too, the inventory, that means that inventory is in stock and we want to expend probably in February and March for some items. Because when
Okay.
we do buy the commodities, we buy them in pallets. So we have like enough pizza to last us for about 6 weeks. I don't buy fully for the year,
Right.
which was done in the past, and I
I-
don't stock the freezer.
Right.
But I do buy like a couple months ahead of time.
So would you say, referring to last January, at the expenses of 138.2, again, I'm rounding off, was that mindset similar in terms of the purchase?
I wasn't here.
Okay, so you weren't here, so that could show, we don't know what that represents. Now,
Right.
in your world, the 148 represents in expenses for the next roughly 6 weeks? Is that
Yes,
expenses?
that's the way I do it.
But that 138 that was spent last year, we have no idea, is that for 1 week, 6 weeks, 2 months?
When I came on, it's probably been a year. And when I came on, I did have some difficulty straightening out the freezer.
Right,
There was so much food in there. And there wasn't a grasp of what to use and make sure you're using it properly.
right.
This year, at this point, we're able to tell what is the rotation of the product and serving
Fair
nothing but
enough.
the freshest product to the students.
So we're not comfortable necessarily in identifying what our expenses represent truly in the year 2015-16, but we are comfortable, I'm asking, is it reasonable to say we're comfortable with our income? I mean, our income is our income. That's because
That's
kids spent money, and that's, that's a reality.
I did some research on that, and it shows that because of the price increase, remember, we went up 55 cents in the middle and high school,
Right.
and I believe the increase was 35 cents in the elementary. So that substantially shows up on the paid lunch side. Well, consequently, we're not serving more paid lunches, which I would like to do, but normally that's the case when you do increase the price. You lose participation in sales. But when I ran the same report for our free and reduce, even though the free and reduced figures are holding the same, we do currently have an increase the amount of free children and reduced children that we're serving. So looking at the figures that way, it's showing that we are improving the quality of the food, and the children that are entitled to it are now taking it.
But we are, I mean, truly from an expense income perspective, and I appreciate, and I'm not trying to, you weren't here, you don't know what,
Right.
I get it. But we seem to be running similarly in terms of our income to expense ratio from last year to this year.
Because when I
Without-
discussed with Ed, we decided we're going to run this department as an enterprise fund. If you take funds in or expend funds, you make sure you take the income in to match it. So the only crinkle in that would be that materials are stored in inventory.
Right.
And when we even hit into March, we won't have that expense when we hit down the road.
Okay,
Trying to keep the percentage of food costs around 40%, which is a decent number. I mean, you cut the cost of the food, you're going to cut the cost of the quality of the meat.
sure.
And there are some products out there I have, and I did not purchase the commodities either. I just want to make that perfectly clear. There are commodities that were purchased last year previously, which I more than likely will not use because it's product that is unacceptable to me, and if it's unacceptable to me, it's not acceptable to the students of Wallingford.
Appreciate
An
that.
example being, they have an item called teriyaki chicken, but it's made out of dark meat chicken. It might taste good, but it doesn't look too good when you start cutting it up. And so we'll probably lose some monies in commodities. But we're utilizing the commodities to the fullest right now.
I appreciate that, thanks.
Okay.
Yes, Kathy?
Yeah, I have a question with regard to the Board of Ed assistance figure. So the $38,724, is that the full amount that we are allocating this year? Maybe that's to Sal.
I
Not
don't,
sure if you know.
is that the full amount you was given?
38,000.
After,
And,
right.
okay, and then do we know, because I don't see any representation of that figure for the 15-16, do we know if that's included in these figures or not?
The 15-16 amount was included in these figures, but it was more than that.
Okay, but I mean, so
Yeah.
we're looking at apples to apples here.
Correct.
When we look at the
she had-
bottom line.
we had already given, in 15-16, we had given the subsidy in the fall
Yep.
of last year.
So it was already incorporated.
Correct.
Good. I just want to make sure we were looking at true
Correct.
figures.
How much
Thank
was
you.
it? How much was it last year?
Wasn't it? It was over 100,000, wasn't
Yeah,
it? 121,000 or something?
127.
127. I was close.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No?
The whole food service department, this is the first year I did file, it's called the Annual Cost Expenditure Report. And I don't have it with me, but basically what the USDA and what the Child Nutrition Department wants, they want a food service department to have 3 months operating expense. And I did file the report, and the report showed a minus 200 and some odd thousand for our total fund balance. But the way they figure it is that the operation itself should need 3 months of operating expense. So when I did all the calculations and after we paid off all the retirees from last year and everything else, you have to remember that took a bit of a piece of change out of our fund balance. So currently, our fund balance is $119,799, which I intend not to use during this fiscal year. And it seems that what we get back from the government and what our total cash sales are for the month keeps us pretty level with what our operating expenses for the month, and that's approximately $160,000, $170,000 a month.
Mike?
So just to be clear. Let's stay on.
Now you're on.
Alright. Okay. Just to be clear, so we are at a loss of, at this time, $30,713?
That's not true. That's because he backed out, Ed, when he redid the report, he backed out the 38,000 from the board. So currently, according to his figures, it's a loss of 8,724.
That's all?
That's it. And last year, you
Oh,
were
because
83,000 in
you're
the
including
hole.
Oh, yeah. Well, we
But
really
still.
know. It's the 38.
Right, but it's still 50,000 less than last year.
Yes.
Do you feel that's gonna continue?
The
on
trend's
that
gonna,
trend?
well, February will be a bad month because there's a lot of
week less.
expenditures. And
There's one less week.
I did beg not to have snow days, but we had to. And when your income is $8,800 a day, that's lost.
yeah.
I mean, even when it's summer out and it's nice, kids are going to go to the beach. So hopefully, March is a very strong month. And I looked into last year's report. We did very well in March. We did very well in May. So if we could hold our own in February and April, And June's really a wash month too. If we can make a few dollars, I did project that we should end up with approximately a $5,000 net gain for the year. And that's in that second report I passed out.
So if you turn to this.
Yeah, but I thought I saw 73.
Sure. The projection for the year is saying we don't touch the fund balance. I do want to say, I do remember previous directors here, and like I said, I've been around Wallingford a long time. I started my career in 1972. I do remember at one point, there was like a $500,000 fund balance there. But guess what? Times have changed, and people got raises, and people got better benefits, and food costs more money, and capital improvement, and thanks to the board, a lot of the capital improvement is done by them. I do project we'll have a gain of about 5,516 based on the figures that we're working with, which will give us a total fund balance of 125,315. There's, I believe, 3 retirees, it could be 4, that are also in the audience that they said if the board gave us another opportunity to operate this program, that they would not retire, and that would kick approximately $39,000 back into the budget. That would give us total available funds of 164 change. I did project a loss at 237, so basically our shortfall would be 73,245 for the year, for next fiscal year, which would be 17-18.
So,
I'd be happy to address any questions on that.
and
if
that
you'd like.
includes canceling out our fund balance, correct? And we
That
still
includes
have the
cancel,
loss.
right, that will
Okay.
include canceling out the fund balance. But, you know, like, the whole trick to this business is getting the children to the table and eating. A small increase of 5%, it doesn't seem big. It's like, you know, serving 5 more meals at each school. We have 13 schools.
It
At the
adds
end of
up.
the year, that's a lot of money.
Alan, so the $5,500 gain that you're projecting for this year, is that after using the $38,000?
But that's, keeping that, we have that 38,000 already in our checking account.
So
It's using, it's not.
Right.
it's excluding it.
So it's
the five-
including it,
Including it?
it's including it.
So if the Board of Ed didn't give you any money this year, we'd have a
We would operate at a loss of about
$33,000 loss.
33,000.
Gotcha. And then next year, you're projecting that goes up to 237,000?
The loss,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what
Why would
I don't
the-
understand.
I don't get
Why
that.
would the loss go up that much? From, yeah,
Well, the reason being, I didn't do the previous year's budget. We're working fresh from like day one of what I'm working on.
yeah, but these are actuals, right? I mean, this 5,500 that you have here projecting for this year is the actual through now plus the projection for the rest of the year, which I assume is yours.
To get a correct answer, I'd have to dig through all this and really look and see where I came up with it. Ed worked with me on the budget preparation.
Hard time correlating this to this.
Me too.
You know what,
Yeah.
I guess
Let's do it.
you know what, I'm struggling with, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and we could have another discussion at another day, but, so your cafeteria operations that you provided, or that was provided in our packet,
Right.
okay, fine, not a problem. And then this, what we got for the food service budget projection, I feel like they're not, I can't get any line item on the food service budget projection for year ending 17-18 that goes back to, well, I guess that's 17-18, that's why. This only goes to 16-17. Yeah, I guess
Oh, I
that
didn't
answers my
realize.
question. Okay, I had to think that through, I
Oh, I
apologize.
just realized
But
that.
I'm still
I,
confused.
what's that, Kath?
Yeah, I'm with you, though. I'm still confused because,
Well, I feel like if we're showing then, right, if we're ending 16-17,
in the plus,
well, we're not,
well,
really.
up 5,000, but with the Board of Ed having given,
That's true. So I guess that's where that
8,000.
5516 comes from. If you see projected gain for year ending 16-17, that's the 5,500.
right,
And the fund balance is there. I mean, that's
Right.
just there. So, okay. So if that helps you, I'm trying to process this myself, Kath, so maybe it helps.
I
So-
just don't get the big deficit next year.
Right.
If we're gonna if we're making money
Well,
this year.
I think Alan's point is this will be now his, really his,
A
I don't
guide.
want to speak for you, but it's really your, this year is sort of your first budget, but you still inherited stuff.
Right.
So it'll be your first budget year, really.
And if I could remind everybody, the original reduction that was going to be, or the original subsidy was much higher until we cut staff. Remember, we cut staff going into this school year. So if we didn't cut that staff, the initial subsidy was well over $100,000, close to $200,000. So we cut staff. The unions worked with us on a variety of different opportunities to increase sales, and that's where we were able to make that reduction down to the smaller amount. So there was projected to be a greater deficit this year. It was just the staff reductions, which we were able to take and save from, allowed us to not have to contribute as much.
So then the question is, are we planning to be fully staffed, bringing that staff back?
No.
So then I still don't understand why we're showing such a big deficit for next year. I'm sorry.
Well, the year previous, she was showing a 455,000 deficit. I mean,
For 17-18?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, no, for
No.
16-17.
Oh, 16-17. Did she project out as far as to 17-18 or not
Well,
necessarily?
the personnel, one of the first things when I met with Cindy and the superintendent is, I mean, we looked at there's no way the personnel was gonna be 1,361,000. I mean, so we're working with like newer figures here. And to come up with those figures, I believe, I looked at what the fund balances and what the future revenues would be. And we got, using a percentage of cost of goods, I think I did use 40% or 42. I have all my notes here. And what the personnel would be, and the operating expense, and then we also put the retirees in there, and then I pulled out the retirees. This is, the original 237 is without the retirees. So that's 38,000 subtracted off of there.
The 237 is without the retirees.
Right.
But it's factored.
It's factored in the top figure, right,
not an additional amount.
right.
I need to,
I mean, as far as budget-wise, we looked at as fair as we can and where it would be. I mean, if things do change, I mean, we'd have to adjust, like any budget.
I think that the problem that we're all having right now is that this year's numbers are showing, if you took out the board subsidy, a loss of 33,000, which is nowhere near the shortfall projections. So I think that's the problem we're all grasping, we're all struggling with, and I do apologize if I'm putting words in anybody's mouth, but it just seems like there's such a disparity over what's going on this year and what's projected for next year.
the 33,000 was what?
Well, so the 33,000 is roughly what we're down this year, because these numbers, the projection for these numbers, if I was not mistaken, included the board subsidy.
So in other words,
Probably a
But
little
that's
bit more than
17,
33.
No,
no,
on the
this figure here is for this.
the
Oh, yeah,
top
yeah,
is
yeah.
is
And
the
then if you
60.
take that off of this figure,
Right, I
comes down to 33,000.
But, so, I don't know if this, what's the projected, you have a projected shortfall of 73,000 for the end of the next school year.
Right, 17, 18.
What is it for this present school year, or don't we have that number?
It's right here.
5,000.
Profit.
But with the subsidy that
That's right. I
the,
got it.
right, so technically you could say it's a $33,000
That's where Shauna's
deficit.
getting the
Right.
33.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
33,000, I'm with Shauna 100%, 33,000 this year versus
Oh, I know.
237,000
Well,
next
No,
year.
it's only seven.
No,
it's
Well-
only
Well,
seven-
yeah, but
I
that's
mean,
using the
96,
fund
it's only
balance.
seven.
But you're using.
But
That's
you're
using the fund balance.
Good point, yeah, and we're not touching
So
that
it's truly
this year.
273,
So I guess that's what I know.
237, sorry.
I know that's what I'm struggling with, why if we're doing so well this year, that we're not really not that we're not losing a lot of money, but we're not compared to what's projected for next year.
Looking at the figures and the way the budget was prepared and presented was the fairest way that I came up with it. And when I presented it to Ed, he said all figures looked like they would work that way, and that's what it would be.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't
So
wanna
what's our
predict-
fund balance right now?
$119,799.
Okay, it is, what, that's the 119,799. Okay. Okay.
And currently, we have $126,000 in our banking account.
So that 38,740 that the Board of Ed is supplementing for this year is in addition to the 119 is after we give the
The
30.
119 has been the same since the beginning of the year. That figure hasn't been touched.
Right,
Those funds went into our operating day sales report, and that balance currently is 126,616. That's in the Munis report.
I'm sorry,
That's in the
what's the
Munis.
126?
126,616. You don't, it's
Is
not
what?
on there.
Is what?
Is our current checking balance.
Oh, okay, got it, yeah.
I guess I'm going to ask this question a different way, and I'm sorry if anybody else has their hands up. But what's changing for next year? Are we projecting a reduction in the number of people taking lunches for next year? So we're going to. Are we projecting a reduction in the number of students purchasing lunches next year? So our income's going to go down?
I figured it the same.
You figured. So are we increasing expenses for next year?
I believe the expenses were held at 42%. I mean, I can't really physically count how many kids are going to really actually count.
Sure.
No,
and
no,
have
I
meals.
understand that.
I mean,
guess-
that's why, it's a budget. I mean,
Yeah.
I-
The other side to that too is, what is our anticipated free and reduced lunch? If that goes up, if we anticipated that going up, okay, right. Well, I mean, all board members, I mean, I appreciate that. But that's another factor that could influence swings.
I think that, because I asked the same question, and I think that we need to get more information on this, obviously, because we want to be clear on this. The fact of the matter is that there is going to be a deficit. We know that. We need to factor in the fact, and I just wanted to verify with Cindy, that this contract is also up for a new contract next year, I believe.
For
It is a
2018?
2017, 18. Because it was a one-year contract. So I don't know if, and again, we have to verify this, and Alan could do this, is verify whether or not there were any, well, actually, no, I answered my own question before I stated it. So we need to ferret this out, because obviously there is, I have the same questions you do. So I want to make sure that we understand that.
Roxanne?
Yep, I have a couple questions. So if we go with this, we will deplete, in the year 2017-18, we'll deplete our fund balance.
yes.
Okay. So, so then whatever is our losses going forward, we have to absorb. I just want to process that in my mind. And then my other question is, what happens to a fund balance if you make a decision as a district to regroup how you deliver your food service? So let's say you go to an external mechanism. What happens to that money in your fund balance? Because that's been earmarked specific for cafeteria, right? You have to utilize that money. Can that be utilized for capital expenditures specifically for cafeteria? Or are we limited in what we can use that 119 for?
I do not know the exact answer to that, but I believe that the food service funds have to stay in the food service account.
That makes perfect sense.
What we had discussed last year was that the money that was left over was only could be used for capital expenditures.
Okay.
Because.
I mean, my
Yeah.
concern is, at some point, I'm guessing the board needs to make decisions. Very hard decisions, one way or the other. Tonight, we're doing it. Okay. So I want to make sure that we don't lose that 119, based on a decision we potentially might or might not make, that 119 does not get lost on any, I mean, it's
Enterprise account for food services.
it's fine.
And if you recall last year, when we were looking at the bid process, there was that element where $100,000 could be given to the company
Right,
to, for capital improvements, and that's where that $100,000 was intended to come from, was the enterprise account.
yep,
So it wasn't new money from the Board of Education.
right.
It was the existing money in that account.
Thanks for clarifying that for me. Mm.
All right, so I guess, and I know that we obviously need, Kathy, you go first.
Actually, what was the previous projection for 17, 18? What was
Like last year?
yeah, what was the previous
Yeah.
director's? We-
I can go grab my
It
budget
was a
book.
lot, I think it was a lot worse, correct? Than 73,000.
Well, remember, this 70, you got it, we have to.
I know we're using the fund balance.
No, but you're also, you're using the full fund
Yep.
balance. So again, I can go grab my budget book from last year if you would like, but I
Well,
didn't
to
bring
be
that
honest with you,
this
I just want to make a statement. I think we have people's lives on the state, in the balance here. We've supported more than 73,000 over the past several years for the cafeteria. I really struggle with the accuracy of this projected loss. I think it's way too high. Based on what we're seeing for this year, they've made remarkable improvement this year. And my personal feeling is I'd like to give these guys a chance in next year. If we have to fund $73,000, so be it, we fund the $73,000. And give them, that's just my personal opinion, and you know, again, I'm not comfortable with these figures being a true reflection based on the great work that's been done this year. I just I'm struggling with that. I don't think we're gonna see a $73,000 deficit next year. That's just my gut. So I just need to put that out there.
Amanda?
I just have one question. If we do deplete the fund balance, what are the consequences, if any? Is there?
Well, the board would have to assume the additional costs. So we would have to take it from the Board of Ed budget.
So contingency or, whatever.
And I guess that's probably, and I think, great work, but that's my biggest struggle, is that we're supposed to be making a decision tonight about whether or not we go out to bid. And so it's not just, to see that huge number, so we're gonna deplete the fund balance next year. And then, are we gonna come back to this question of whether or not we go out to bid the following year? Because we're talking, it's $73,000 next year, but the following year, it's $237,000. Do you see? I mean, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around this, knowing that we have to make that decision tonight.
That's true. You do need a plan.
Yeah.
And the plan I intended to do, because I was asked by the superintendent, he said, if they did decide to stay on, would you stay one more year? And I personally told him I would. After that, as you know, I am getting up there in age. I think the plan to move forward is the fact that if the program can become basically able to run on its own, a good, strong plan so that a younger director can come in and have at least a lifespan here. Because, if there's just short term, there's no one that's gonna be looking for this position. I mean, I've been very good at making sure that I am here on a daily basis, making sure the operation's running. We're handling all of the major crises in the office. But moving forward, if that changes, you can't have someone come in here on a flim and try to run this operation.
No, and I think that's, and I'm sorry, Dr. Menzo, but that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, is that if we decide that we're gonna stay and keep the food services in-house, we can't, in good conscience, go forward thinking that, all right, next year it's gonna be 73, but the following year it's gonna be, 300,000. And that's, I think, and I don't wanna say let's keep going forward, and I appreciate you saying you're gonna stay on for another year. Because I think, like I said, you've done amazing things. The work we've seen this year compared to last year and the year before has been amazing. But if with these projections, it's just, and this is just speaking for me personally, it's a little scary. But it sounds like you think it's going to turn around, and this isn't the reality of the situation, at least from your comments.
I don't like using the words, I'll do my best, because that doesn't cut it. I mean, it's that, we have a very dedicated staff that's out there producing it every day, and you can see that they're all here.
Yeah.
And they're very concerned, like anybody would be concerned. They didn't put themselves in a situation. What happened throughout the years, when money times were good, and they're not good now, as we know, we read all the reports, times have changed. Benefits are much higher, salaries are much higher. And, you know, when populations of school districts, even though we didn't drop too much here, but, and the amount of participation, I was looking at a scale the other day, I think it was 2011 and 12. They were serving over 3,000 meals here a day. We're lucky if we hit 2,500. Give me another 500 meals a day, I'll show you what we can do. So it's just, you know, hoping to move forward.
Dr. Menzo?
If I may make the recommendation, first of all, taking a vote tonight, you're not taking a vote, you're taking consensus. So it doesn't really move everything forward until the board meeting anyway. I'd like to have time to sit with Alan and do a year-over-year analysis by line item of comparisons that we can then share more clearly. A detailed explanation of why the deficit is projected to be the same, that deficit, and have that presented at the board meeting. Right now, to be honest, the State Department of Education just got back to myself and Ed on Friday through email that the new RFP for us to even go out to bid for food services isn't ready yet. So it's not like we couldn't do it anyway until you voted on it, if that was what you voted on, and that couldn't happen until February 28th. So there is still the gift of time to make sure that we have your questions answered appropriately, so that whatever decision you make, you're feeling like you made it knowing what you were making, not that you were thinking that the number was too high or too low. I know that's not a good feeling to have to vote on something like that. So if I can make a recommendation or a suggestion that you could take or leave, but just a humble suggestion that we do a little bit more work, break it down in the meeting under operations report on that evening. We vote. No matter what you decided at your last operations meeting to put $80,000 placeholder at this point, just because we have to be safe in our sustained services budget for food services. So that's not going to change that discussion at this point. So there's no bearing on what number you come up with a budget for tonight. So that's just my 2 cents, or 5.
Roxanne?
Thank you, Dr. Manso, for your 2 cents. So I just want to speak candidly, because we have an audience of food service people here, and I feel like I need to be very honest. So first, we have this amazingly committed food service staff. I mean, you guys have been through the ringer plus, and you have committed beyond belief. And Alan, thank you. You know, I echo Shauna's comments. You know, your work has been really terrific, and you've done some really wonderful things for our district that obviously does not go unnoticed. So that is stellar and appreciated above and beyond. So obviously, I think most people realize the board is committed to doing the humane and right thing for our staff, but also provide the best services we can provide for our students. So I think we're all committed on that level, that we want to find that right balance. So there's a third leg to my stool, which is I named the staff, I named the students for providing a good service, product. My third leg of the stool is the community at large. And we all know the elephant in the room is what we've been reading in the paper for the last 4 or 5 days. And I've said this consistently in every conversation I've had with food service, which is the fiduciary responsibility we have to our taxpayers. So I'm now trying to find that three-legged stool and finding the balance between all those. They're all critically important components. I can't say one is more important to me than the other. I really will give them equal weight. So having said that, I am concerned about, so every decision I'm making, you know, it was a game changer this week. And I know what Malloy is proposing as a budget isn't going to be the budget. It's going to be a version of that. I get that. But the fact of the matter is our town is being struck pretty hard on that conversation about state budget. And this past week has been a game changer for me in terms of how I look at our respective Board of Ed budget. And so I'm thinking, again, that fiduciary responsibility I have to the community and its taxpayers, what does that mean? And what does that look like? And how can I do my share as Board of Ed to provide a budget that is representative of what could potentially be hit to our community? And what does that mean? And what does that look like? So I'm struggling with that. That was a huge game changer for me this past week. So I am concerned about potentially how it looks that we are knowingly willing to think about a loss of XYZ dollars, whatever that means. I struggle with that as a fiduciary responsibility to the community. So that's a struggle I personally, and I have to deal with that, and that's my problem. Even if we go out to bid, this is a question. If we go out to bid, and I think I know the answer, but that doesn't mean necessarily we are going out to bid. It's simply a fact-finding mission. Now, having said that, I don't want to give work to, I know how much work went into going out to bid a year ago. Was it a year ago? Oh my God, it seems like it was 10 years ago. A lot of, and it was some of my time, because I sat in meetings and talked and interviewed, as did other people in this room, food service companies. And those are hours and hours we'll never get back of our lives, and that's fine. But, so I'm respectful of people's time and the angst it puts people through when you consider even going out to bid. But even if you do go out to bid, that's not, I guess that's not the end all to be all. I mean, again, you need to get all the information to make a decision. Is that the right decision for us as a district? So it still gives you the gift of time. And again, I'm respectful of people's time that goes into that bid process and the angst it provides others. But I mean, that's not the end all to be all. That doesn't mean you have to, we learned that last year. You don't have to necessarily go out to bid. Those, and what was provided to us as what would be those bids and what those companies are willing to charge us, or what their deal was for our specific district, could be different in a year's time. I don't know that. Might be identical. I don't know. So I do think, again, being respectful of people's time and commitments, I do think there's value to considering going out to do the bid process to just see what that would look like for us specifically, and what does that mean. And it goes back to, again, that three-legged stool for me. And I have to, I think it's very hard to say to our community, we're willing to accept a loss knowingly. We're going to lose money, and what does that mean? I don't know. I'm putting all my cards. I'm being very honest, and I'm putting all my cards on the table and the things that I'm mentally thinking about and struggling with. And if I'm missing a component, I'm very open to hearing what I'm missing. But that, I just want everybody to understand what I'm thinking about and what I'm struggling with. So,
Mike?
so.
I appreciate everything Roxanne just said. However, I know I'm not ready to decide tonight, because I think it was a year ago, and I kind of forgot a lot of those things that we were told as far as, probable costs of going out. What does it cost to get a company from the outside that come in? Who would we retain all the people we have now to staff the cafeterias? Manager, would you need a person like,
But those things don't come, that's not gonna be answered before you go out to bid.
Yeah.
That's answered in the bid.
But that's
I
why.
realize, no, I'm
right.
just,
So I
I
just want
just
you to
wanted
know
some kind of an
I don't want you-
idea. No,
I can't give you that.
No.
I'm not gonna promise to give you that. I can't, as superintendent, I can't tell
But they're
you what your
outside
probable
vendors. They're
costs
outside
are, because
vendors.
they're gonna have to give their own unique bids. So,
I'm not asking for costs. I'm asking for the, what am I trying to say here? The logistics. In other words, are the services comparable to what we have now?
that's gonna come in each individual
I know.
bid.
All right,
So-
I'm thinking that's more specific.
So, Mike, that's my argument. You kind of need to, we're making a decision with only half the information, potentially.
And I guess, what is the drop dead date to do this, to go out for a bid?
Well, when we mapped it back last year, we said that we had to, in order to make this happen, we had to go out to bid within the month of February. March the latest. And that was when I remember sitting here in this room, and Jay actually stood up and went through the whole timeline. And that's what we have to do, because the state has to review. The good news is the state did meet with purchasing, met with business. They reviewed the addendum. There is some feedback that we just received on the addendum, so the town will look at that. The town they didn't work today, it was a holiday, so I'm gonna reach out again to them on tomorrow. The state still has to give out the RFP, so we can't do anything right now. Nobody can go out to
So
bid.
even to say February, we can't say, because we don't know what we're
Well,
gonna get.
no, but they're saying that according to the email, they said they would have the RFP. It's supposed to be approved. There were minor changes. It's supposed to be approved within the next 2 weeks, the 28th. So by the end of February. So what we would do is we've already, which was the board's charge to the superintendent and staff, was to get everything in order so that soon thereafter, the 28th, March 1st, it would go out. It goes out for a month. Then we're not doing the interview process. We're not doing all of those things that caused challenges to us last year. We're going to do a straight process. The town wants it to be based on qualifications, price, two-part bid, basically. There's a committee that would be established, which was just basically going to be, a three-person, which was going to be town, and business office, but not, the masses. And then a decision would be rendered by April, which that was our timeline, because then you can make a decision by April, you could employ the company, and then there would be a transition period so that we hit the summer months, if it was chosen to go out with a different company, to hit the summer months with making certain that we had everything flow. The goal was to have, and that was where the timeline, when we backwards, that July 1st, everything would be in place. Because, again, just because if you choose as a board, if you so chose, to go with the company that met the criteria based on the bid process, then there's a negotiated contract. The contract is somewhat of a boilerplate contract with the state. However, the town still has its opportunity to review it. So that process takes about a month. The state has to finalize it. So again, the final contract would be executed in the month of June. But again, the company would be known it would be known to the company that they awarded the bid. So the timeline would work for July 1st, as long as that's what we had mapped back, as long as it was by March 1st.
Maybe this is a stupid question, but do we come up with any type of a criteria that we're looking for when we go out to bid? We tell them, these are the things we're looking for?
That was
or do we just have to listen to what they?
No, the criteria was already done. We went through this last year.
I know, but it was last year, so.
And we did the criteria, it really doesn't change. I mean, we were looking at the quality of the food, we were looking at, obviously the service, we were looking at recommendations, all the different components, the healthiness of the food, all those different components.
Okay.
We tried to avoid entering a lot of variables, because that was what our challenge was last time. We tried to be too, actually, we tried to be too sneaky, or in a sense that we tried to create too many variables, in the sense that, or too smart, I should say, for our own good. In the sense that there's a reason why the state does this every year with every district, is that they have a process, and we kind of tried to make the process too much of our own, to be honest. And we should just, we should have gone, and we learned from the process.
Kathy?
So I appreciate everything you said, Roxanne, and I totally agree with you, and I know I have that fiscal responsibility in my mind and in my heart too. But one thing I think we have to kind of put in perspective, maybe a little different perspective than we're used to, is considering the food service $73,000 as a deficit. Because in reality, our district has been unique for the past 20 years in always having had a surplus and being independent. Most other districts, it's part of their budget. So I think it's unfair to label it as a deficit. It is, from where we're coming from, because to us it is a deficit, because we've never had to pay for it before. But in most other districts, it's part of doing business. It's a line item. So it's a line item for us now. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I think we need to keep that in mind. That's all.
Karen?
Yes, so you indicated, the superintendent indicated that you will go line by line with the food service director to just compare the budgets before our next meeting. And just as an aside, did you have any other ideas about, because you changed things a lot this year, you know, different preparations, what have you, did you have any ideas for next year that would also be a cost savings?
I certainly did, but, you know, hearing the talk about, you know, going out to contract and stuff would really squash a lot of it because of the fact you go out to a contractor, they don't have to bid anything. They're gonna buy what they want, and when they need it. Some of the decisions have to be made before that, and I did already make a decision. Last year, there wasn't enough funds put in a DOD, which is the Department of Defense Fruit and Vegetable Program. The previous administration only put $25,000 in it. I put $48,000 in it because we currently ran out of those funds. We have approximately $128,000 in commodities, and I did none of the purchasing for last year, which is throwing a little like wrench in the spokes right now, because some of the commodities that were put is something I won't use. But if you do decide to go out to a company, I have no intentions of starting a bidding process because it's a lot of work. And the clock is ticking, and if you do go out to bid, commodity bids usually have to go out by March 18th. And I was planning on getting those to the Sal and purchasing so they could be done and done correctly. They weren't done that way in the past. And with that being said, then at the end of the year, when I decide non-commodities, we would put the bids out in a timely fashion, and of course, Wallingford takes the lowest price. But with a company coming in, guess what? You don't have to worry about any of that.
But let's just put it in perspective, because I appreciate what you're saying, but every district has to go out to bid at the same time. So it's not where Wallingford has a choice that we could have gone out to bid in October.
For the commodities you're talking
No, well, for the bid for the company. So that's what I'm saying, because you're saying the timing with the company.
Timing with the commodities have to be done by March.
Exactly, and then the timing with districts going out to bid for food services on an annual basis is, exactly.
Well, we didn't
So-
do that last year. We waited until you decided not to go with the company, and we had a rush.
No, but I'm saying this timeline that we have right now is the timeline that is what every other district would do. Is the exact same timeline that every other district would, if they were gonna go out to bid, this is the exact timeline that every other district. No, I just wanna make that clear, because I just wanted to clarify the fact that we're not, the timeline that we have this year is the appropriate timeline.
But what I'm saying is if you go with a company, all of the bids, what do you do with all the bids that are already out? That's,
But they're not awarded.
yeah, okay.
So, I mean, the thing is that you,
You put the bid out and just don't award it.
yeah, I mean,
what I'm
unfortunately, that's what
saying.
you have to,
And
you have to do it either with, you do it whichever way. I mean, we sometimes go out to bid, Mark knows in maintenance, we'll go out to bid for something and we don't have the money to fund it, so we don't fund the renovation of something or the installation of something. So just with the, yeah, I mean, you don't have to, just because you bid something doesn't mean you actually have to award it.
Well,
So-
that was my point, yeah. But it does, and I do respect, it provides a lot of angst. You know, I don't want to minimize that
No,
for
I'm
the
not
district.
either, but I just wanted to
Right,
clarify.
right. But that was my point, Sal, was that you could go out to bid and not award it. I mean, I feel like that's the responsible thing to do, and in essence, to make a good decision. I mean, we sort of know what's out there, but we really don't. So that's why I'm saying, I don't want to minimize the angst it provides people, and it's their lives. I respect that completely. But to go out to bid, they're the ones, the people that are going to bid on it, they're the ones doing the work. It's boilerplate for us at this point.
But weren't you talking about other things? We were talking about commodities and.
The commodities have to be in by March 18th. So those bids, or the people you're gonna spend the commodity down. So whomever is here, that's what they're gonna have, whatever I put in.
So, yeah, so, I mean, it actually works, I mean, no offense, but at least if you're picking the commodities and we know you're doing right by the children, that's the food that'll be there, hopefully, without having to do
And
anything
that's-
else.
That's a sum of funds of about $125,000. That's your allotment this year for one.
Yeah, it's my understanding, based on what you said before, is that we can't even go out to bid now, even if we voted to, or we took consensus to go out to bid tonight. We can't do it till the 28th anyway.
Correct.
So and I don't know if you guys have more questions or anything like that, but it's my personal feeling that I would like to wait for more information to even, and I agree with you, Roxanne, going out to bid makes the most sense as far as having all the information in front of you, what other options we have. But I also want to have a full understanding of what's going on with this budget with the cafeteria, so that I have kind of a balance in my head personally. So, and you guys can all, tell me how you feel, but I would like to just wait till the 28th personally. And I don't know if you guys want to take a consensus on waiting on the 27th. Sorry, I have 28th down.
But that would be our drop dead date.
That would be our drop dead date. Yeah, we'd have to have a decision.
Well, at least whether we're moving forward to
Yeah.
bid, sorry.
That's right, that's okay. Ask a couple questions. Do we know, are the students and families happy with the food this year? And the value? Do we get any feedback?
We got 4 complaints all year.
That's
Which I do have the complaint log for you, so I'll send that in your packet. I think that we've heard better, I think that there's definitely been an uptick in terms of positives about the program. I think there's never been negatives about the employees. I think it's been about the food and, potentially some of the quality. I think that's turned around significantly. I think that I haven't heard a complaint about that. I think it's still the perception, unfortunately. I think it takes time to get over. It's kind of like when you have a restaurant that's under new management, but the last one in there, the last owner didn't necessarily leave on the best, of terms. So you have to get that traction. So I think that's definitely happening. And I think that, again, the prices of the food went up, in terms of lunches went up. I don't believe we lost as many lunches as was anticipated. And so I think that's a positive. There's just, again, it's trying to build that business base back up, that customer base back up, rather.
And I can tell you, my son has always purchased lunch since kindergarten. Well, no, not kindergarten, first grade. And he has noticed a significant difference this year in the way the food tastes. He was starting last year to say, I'm done. I want to make my own lunch in the morning. And this year he says it's been so much better. So there has been a noticeable
So they
difference, at
seem to
least
be
for him.
pleased. I mean, and it seems as though it's good value.
Yeah,
I think they're-
I mean,
they're gonna-
for what, as a parent, this is speaking as a parent, not as a board member, but when I look at what it would cost for me to make my son lunch every day, so his sandwich, the drink, the snack, the this and whatever else that he needs and that he gets with his lunch, it makes financial sense to purchase lunch from school, at least for me anyway.
Yeah. And on the free and reduced lunches, do we make money, lose money?
No, we make
must make money.
much more than what we charge, and we get about, I think it's $3.29 a lunch. And the thing of it is, though, is we're getting a higher percentage of participation than we did in the past.
What is the percentage?
Our
Percentage
percent of free and reduced is 21%. Last year was around 20. So we're up 1%, but what I'm saying, of that 20%, we're getting probably 20% more of the meeting. So that helps elevate, because we only could claim a lunch if it's served. We don't claim a lunch if it's not served.
So do we know what percentage of the students that are eligible for it are taking it?
We look at it. I don't track it, but it's looked at. You got to remember, we're one short in the office, so it's a lot of work coming in there.
And I wonder why somebody wouldn't take it if they're
Well-
entitled to it.
Well, the younger grades, and I appreciate the fact of a kindergartner, but they're very fussy eaters. And when you look at their plate, there's an awful lot on the plate per the regulation, because you have to give them the fruit and the vegetable, and the meal, and the milk, and they end up throwing out a lot of it away. It's just too much. It's
Can I
like
ask
I've
a-
talked about,
Yeah.
let's get smaller sizes and cut them up, make them finger foods for these little kids, and it doesn't meet the regs, so, you don't do it, so you do what you can.
And a couple others, if I may, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
You're
You're on the same track I'm on anyway, Jacob.
I'm sorry?
You're on the same track I'm on anyway.
Oh, okay. So when we went out to bid last year, what did we learn from the legitimate bids? Are those that you say, hey, that seems like it'd be somebody that makes sense to go with? And how is it apples to apples to what we're reporting in our internal financial statements? Are they covering the same things that we're covering, not covering the same things
Yeah,
we're
it
not
was,
covering?
I think, again, without going into great detail, because that was thrown out, because of a variety of reasons.
But we got, I think,
The thing is,
We
we
went through the
got it,
process.
we did go through the process. I think that we found is that it was, their projections were similar, except that their expenses were less. So their revenue was a similar projection, but the expenses were reduced. So therefore, that was where, in most instances, they were able to show a financial gain, or at least a break even, because of the cost of the expenses were less, because they have a variety of things. They have different marketing opportunities, they have different purchasing opportunities. There was some staffing reduction in terms of the cost for staffing. So those were the key areas. But again, the thing is, it was a 1-year scenario. We don't know what this year would look like. It could look different, it could look the same. And again, it varied, based on the company.
but they were paying, things that we include in here as expenses, I don't know what, I don't know if I call them CapEx, but repairs and sorts of things, they would have been paying for as well.
Well,
So-
the capital, it depends on how the contract was set up. The capital was coming from the district, because we had put in that $100,000 initial capital setup, and then the maintenance of it came from the company. The district still owns the equipment. So that was a piece that was factored out. But that's already factored out because the Board of Education covers all capital
Okay,
expenditures.
so we don't have any capital in.
So we don't have
in this
capital
amount
in
this
this
year, so
budget. We
it's-
haven't had capital
it's
in the
apples.
food services budget for the past 4 years,
Yeah.
almost 5 years now. So that's a separate entity.
And last, if I may, obviously, there's something strange in the numbers from a 33, if you take this year, add, and then take out the board subsidy, it's about a $33,000 loss. To jump by $200,000 next year, something doesn't seem to make sense there, but you folks are gonna check that out.
Absolutely.
Assuming that the $33,000 is correct, $33,000 operating loss, right, without the subsidy, that is so close. Do you think that you folks and your employees have really looked at everything that's possibly out there? Do you think, have you gotten all the ideas? I know you're very involved in the employees, but do you think you've got all the ideas from them on how we can do this financially? I mean, if we can get to this, if we get $33,000 more, if that's the legitimate number, we're there, right? And I don't know if, as you said, the union contract's coming up soon, if there's some conversations that can be had with them by the employees, or, it's so close.
It could be
It's so
just
close.
one item that we bring in that all of a sudden is a home run. I mean, Friday's our best day. We serve pizza every day, we'd be fine. I mean, there are crazy ideas out there. I mean,
Because of you
Uh,
can't because of the nutritional
it-
thingies and the calories and yada,
it's
yada.
right, it's really something. And back to the budget, and I will go over the figures with Dr. Menzo. A budget's a budget. I mean, I could have sugarcoated and made it even, too. I mean, it's just 1% here, 2% there. I mean,
It's just
but-
we're having a hard time understanding.
Yeah.
Even I, as a financial person, am having a real hard time understanding.
But that's
how it
the
can
way
be
the figures
jumping
ran
from-
out.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll
But
just
to understand why,
We'll
it's,
set up a year-over-year columns. So we'll have year-over-year, 16, 17, 17, 18
Yeah.
projections based on object code, and then we'll
Yeah.
talk about the variance and then be able
Thanks.
to explain the variance. I think that would probably be the best.
Is that the way you would want it? Okay.
I just, you guys, you folks know, it just doesn't, if it doesn't make sense that it would, I mean, what your costs, you said your food cost is, you put in there 40 or 42%, I looked
Yeah.
in these books, and that's what has been running
It's been
along,
pretty
so,
Yeah.
unless, unless you're gonna take $250,000, $200,000 increase in your salary next year, I gotta figure out where it is.
Don't need it.
Kathy?
Just a couple of things. Do we have to increase the cost of lunch next year to stay within our calculation range?
We run a report every year for the State Department of Education called the Price Equity.
Yep.
And we're in the right zone. We have to be on an average of $2.78 for lunch.
Yep.
When you run the elementary, middle, and high school lunches, if they average out above that, we're fine. So yes, we are fine.
So we're good, we don't have to increase the cost.
That's why we made the jump last year, so we wouldn't have to
Yep.
make it 2
You
years
were
in a row.
below the, you were
Okay,
below the
so
equity
that's
last
good
year.
and bad, because if we were going up, that'd be a little more money we could be putting towards next year. But anyway, my other
You
question
can always
is.
raise it. I mean, that's.
Well,
that's
that's
the
true, we
board's
could,
prerogative.
that's true, we could
I
always
mean,
raise it regardless.
You could. in
Regardless, to
theory.
give us a little more, and I understand we lose a certain percentage, but if the lunches are that much better now, maybe we won't lose as much of a percentage.
It's a possibility.
One factor that we probably should consider, as an option, if we increased it by 5 cents, what would that give us in extra income next year based on the new
We s-
number of lunches that we're serving? The other thing is the free and reduced. 2 questions. I'd like to know the percentage of free and reduced students from other districts. What are those other districts seeing as a response? And are they getting 80% of participation? Are they getting
Okay.
50%? And what's our percentage, as I was on board with Jay with respect to that? If we're say around 60 or 70%, let's figure out some sort of campaign to figure
To
out.
get it higher.
To get it higher, because that helps the budget. And I'd like to see those figures as well. If we got it up to, if it's 60% now, and we get it up to 75%, what would that mean in increased revenue? If we got it up to 80%, what would that mean in increased revenue? So we have some factors to work with come,
To target.
right, for that board meeting.
Roxanne?
Kathy, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to go with cost increase. And what does that look like? And even if you nailed it for me. So those were all my questions.
Yeah, by the year 2020, all the price of lunch has to be equal to the cost of a reimbursable lunch, which is $3.31.
Which is 331?
By
Or-
2020, we have to be 331.
Yeah.
So wait, by
But
2020,
if you're in the price equity average, you're not supposed to increase until you get below it, because that average will
Right.
raise again next year.
right.
So that's probably when
So
you'll be
you
able
said
to
it-
bump
by
it up.
2020, we need to be at what, 330?
We'll probably be 330 by then. It's like
330.
229 now, yeah.
And what's our average right now?
Well, we're above the 278. Hold on, I might have it with me.
If you don't, it's not a big deal.
But I just wanted, you just said something, and I just want to make sure that I heard it correctly. You said that we probably couldn't raise our price next year because they would not allow it. So I don't know if that's a journey that you need us to take, if the state
Probably not.
would not allow it.
And why wouldn't
How
they
could
allow
not
it
allow it? That's,
Because you're already above the price equity.
on an average,
So
the
you're-
average
you're-
price?
Your average. That's why I don't want to
okay.
have people go down a road that is unnecessary work.
Right.
Currently, we have 982 showing on free lunch and 261 on reduced price lunch,
Say that again, I'm sorry?
261
For what? Reduced?
lunch.
Thank you. Right.
No, 93.
If I may, if you increase the number of students taking free lunch by 100, you got your $33,000.
You got it, yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
you're
I'm
right.
saying,
That's
yes.
where
Not
we're-
a stat you
You're on
want,
way
though,
to it.
really.
No, if they're eligible. I'm
that's-
saying
I know,
if
I
the
know,
participation rate is low. If,
Our price
It's a
equity.
big
well, let's
number.
see, you got
was
330.
281.
Hang on.
100 kids.
Our
Yeah,
price
if you
equity
take-
was 281 this year.
If there were 100 students more that if there's 100 students that qualify for free lunch, that are not taking it out, that took it, it would give you 33,000. And I used, I left out the food cost of 40%,
Yeah.
because the rest of your costs are fixed, right?
So do we know what our average 2017 cost is?
281.
281, thanks. So we have to raise in the next 3 years
25 cents, or
19 cents. You said you have to be $3 average, and we're 281. We're at 281? Am I saying that right? So 18 cents. Yeah, 19 cents, excuse me.
I'll get clarification from the
Yeah,
State
no
Department.
problem.
when it's-
I'm just thinking that through in my mind that, so let's go with that example that 2018, we cannot increase our prices, just say. But in 19 and 20, those opportunities, I'm guessing, would afford themselves.
Be able to.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion or question? Oh, Kathy?
Just one more thing to have with you for the Board of Ed meeting. I think we have to make some assumptions. If we went out to bid and we decided to go with the food service, and we had to, all our staff, they're going to have an opportunity, I understand, to move forward with the new company. However, if they chose not to, they would be unemployed and eligible for unemployment, yes or no?
I would have to get clarification on that.
Okay, and if they are, we need to factor in what the unemployment cost for us would be for a given number of people. And just again, just to have some information.
My initial response to that is that they wouldn't be eligible because they'd be offered a position and they would deny that, they would not accept it, so therefore they wouldn't be eligible, but I would want to check on that, and I'll make sure I do.
Thank
I don't
you.
want to misspeak on that.
That's a good point, though, Kathy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of assumptions. Yes, that's why we need more information.
Yes. Okay, so, anyone else with questions? Sure, Tammy.
Get my own microphone, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
Last year, when we thought about going out to bid, I advocated for adding the breakfast program because we were one of only 2 districts in our DIRG that didn't have the breakfast program. The State Nutrition Department is actually coming to PTAC next Tuesday. And in conversations of what they were going to talk about and what they were going to present, after the news last week, I feel like you, Roxanne, and I've asked them to not even consider talking to us about the breakfast program. There's absolutely no way that it can make money. And like you, Roxanne, fiscally, even $73,000, that's a teacher.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
So
exactly the way I thought of it.
how do I, advocate for food or for a breakfast program, even though it would be useful and it would be nice to have the students have that? I'd rather see us do something with the share tables. And I'd rather see us have more children who don't eat the food, share it with the others in the room. So that was my soapbox last year, and it's gone. So if you
Funny
do
how a
go
year
out,
can make a big
yes,
difference.
I have plenty others. But honestly, if you go out to bid, I would not even consider that. And if that eliminates any work or a couple pages from the RFP, she won't be talking about it next week. So, and she asked to bring somebody from the breakfast program, and obviously I consulted with Dr. Menzo before I said don't bother, but it's just not something that we can feasibly do. So, if the board entertains this just being a line item as an expense, then I think that's a conversation to revisit. But I think at this point in time, it's just not, I can't fiscally make that recommendation.
Michael?
But wouldn't that, for those children on the free and reduced, they would be eligible for that breakfast for nothing, correct?
Correct.
Wouldn't that bring in funds, though, to us?
Yes. If they take it, but then you also have to look at your expenditures. So you have to have staff
Staff.
Supervision of the children.
and the
Yeah.
supervision, for the
It comes
food.
with
So it's not just
I
the
mean, I've
preparation of the food, but
Mhm.
it's who's gonna supervise them eating the food. And that lends itself to some contractual conversations with our other unions.
Your first thought is that it's probably something that some kids could really use. But I know we did it years ago at Parker Farms, and after 1 year, it wasn't worth it, and they stopped it. Of course, that was a number of years ago, so I don't know if things changed.
I mean, the state has a lot of creative ideas about kiosks, and kids are gonna take and they're gonna do all these fancy things and classroom feeding. But again, the State Department, we've had this. I had this conversation about 3 years ago. Remember, it was during the winter, and the gentleman basically he said, "Oh, he can make it work, can make it work, can make it work." We actually had them bring people out. We filled out all the paperwork, and he said, "This won't be. It won't make you any money." And it would be a loss. That was the determination. So, I mean, again, and that was the year that we got the scathing letter from the governor saying, how dare we, as a school district, not serve breakfast for students. So, again, if Governor Malloy would like to tell us how to do that with a $10 million reduction in ECS funds,
Yeah.
I'd like to see him make magic, because if he could solve that problem, then maybe he could work on the bigger problem that's been there during his tenure.
Anyone else? No? All right. So, we're supposed to take consensus on the cafeteria financial report?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
on the financial
that's the
report.
Just
Yeah,
the
we can do
financial
that.
report.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that's 2 items, 2 different items.
Amanda?
Yeah.
Yes, on both? Am I
No,
doing
just on the cafeteria
Okay.
report.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll go
Yes.
through these
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
I'll take
And
them up and
yes.
send them to you. Annette.
Okay. So item number 3 is discussion and possible consent to go out to bid for a food service company. I would like to, it's not exactly a motion, make a,
Why don't you just
Wait,
table it, and
that's
we'll
what I-
move
yeah.
it to the operations agenda at the board meeting.
perfect, thank you. Table, item number 3, till the 27th. We don't have to take consensus on that, right?
I gotta be there.
Take consensus,
Yeah,
just take
okay.
consensus.
Amanda, consensus on tabling the decision on going out to bid until the 27th?
Yes.
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 And yes. Okay.
And I mean, is administration clear about, I mean, what the.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type up what I
Yeah.
think the questions were. I'm gonna send them to all of you, and then you could correct them before we start working on them.
Fair enough.
How's that sound? All right.
So item number 4, Board of Education Financial Report. Dr. Menza?
Problem. So the benefits, we are still seeing a surplus of $250,000. Again, this is medical, life, and long-term disability. And so that's mostly attributed to still some open positions. But also, the bulk of it comes back to the fact that we knew we were going to have additional funds in this account last year. Remember, at the end of the year, we talked about the participation rates and the connections there and the relationship there. Tuitions, that continues to be a challenge. You'll note that we're in deficit, almost $850,000. Mr. Mancusi is here. This does reflect that Wallingford will receive 77% of estimated costs from the state for excess cost. So it does reflect that amount. And so we're looking to get 75% in February, and March 1st, we'll submit for the remaining revenue.
Yeah, we will update our in-district and out-of-district excess cost numbers and hopefully increase the amount of reimbursement we receive.
So this number reflects, again, the additional magnet school, special ed requirements that we had this year, regular tuition contracts, and then additional special ed since our last report. As we had shared with you, that was an area of concern in our budget where we had a tremendous increase in students with needing special ed services come into our district this fall. And so this is directly connected to that.
Kathy?
So I have a question with respect to the reimbursement we get from the state. We only get reimbursed once a year, is that correct?
There's 2 periods. There's once, and then we get a second reimbursement.
We submit
Well-
figures in December 1st and then by March 1st, and they readjust the numbers based on that.
Would it be cumbersome on us, and I understand this is a whole nother, issue that would have to be addressed at the state level too, but I think it would be very helpful as a Board of Ed member sitting here to see that every month, we got reimbursed for last month's tuition
Yeah, we
costs.
don't-
But would that be cumbersome
we
on
don't
us too?
get-
That
What we could do is we can give you a monthly projection, but we don't get.
We don't get the money.
No, I know we don't
reimbursements
get, I know we don't, but what I'm proposing is that someone start barking at the state to say, we want to be reimbursed every month.
Yeah, they'll have to hire people.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there, would that help us if because then we're not looking
Well,
at
one
a
of
year's
the-
worth of
well,
deficit,
one
we're
of the
looking
thi-
at 1 month behind.
What I mentioned at the last budget meeting we had was that there is a group to look at the special ed funding, and I'm going to be meeting with them when Ed gets back in early March to discuss how this is, so it's not a moving target like you're suggesting. So what they've done is they've worked with UConn and they've worked with the actuarial department to look at how you could calculate on a more consistent basis what a district could expect or should expect. So they've created a consortium model that we're going to look to potentially see whether or not there's a benefit. There may be a benefit one year, there might not be a benefit the following year because, again, you're working in a consortium. So we are looking into that, but it's equalization. We're trying to come up with, and I understand this is exactly what they're trying to do, is come up with some methods that a district is not, constantly having this moving target of special ed costs and reimbursements. And really, the reason why the number changes is because it's dependent on how many districts put in the paperwork for the placements and how much money is left over to spread out. So that's why sometimes you'll see an uptick in the spring, because not everybody who said they were going to claimed. So there's additional money for them to spread it out, and that's why we might get an extra % or 2. So it's really it's an awkward model, and it does cause challenges for us reporting. That's for certain.
Okay, thanks.
Karen?
You indicated that the percentage you expect back is 77%. Now, didn't we budget something lower than that?
Correct.
Like 73% or something
We
around
did. We
there?
budgeted last year, we budgeted lower, we budgeted about 73%. So we are receiving additional funds, or the estimated additional funds, which we desperately need this year.
Okay, thanks.
Based on your uptick population.
Correct. Transportation, we're seeing an increase, a surplus of $250,000 approximately. This reflects the Magnet School Transportation Grant, which was awarded of $100,000. And there was also significant additional savings that Mary Ann and Ed and Rob worked together on making in our transportation routes this past, over the last months. So that was a big, a significant adjustment for us. So we want to thank Mary Ann, Rob, and Ed for their hard work on that.
What was that again, Sam?
Transportation. They made some changes in terms of special ed transportation, in-district transportation, as well as out-of-district, to try to reduce those routes, and that's why we were able to reduce next year's too, the $150,000. Our salary account continues to be about $188,000, so that we're holding steady from last month. Unemployment, we released an additional amount of money there due to the fact that we now have trend to show that that was over budgeted just because we had all the para reductions last year, so we did have to budget for them. The good news is that the economy shows that many of them receive jobs, or we've had to hire some back because there have been changes in staffing due to a variety of reasons in our district. So that was a surplus in that regard. The Medicare, Social Security, we're showing about 11,000, almost 12,000 there. And then plant maintenance and utilities is still a soft number because, as you know, we are getting now winter striking. So we are getting, the heating season is kicking in. It's not as cold, but it did get cold obviously the last week. Seems like it's gonna warm up hopefully next week. But we do have, and poor Mark here is, I don't know how he's staying awake. Karen's like, I'm nudging him. Karen's nudging him. But I do wanna say that these guys, again, I have to thank Mark and his staff. They're amazing, what they do, and they're always very, 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 very forthright in terms of what they can do and what they can accomplish. And I want to just say thank you very much. Mark and I are on the phone at 4 o'clock in the morning. We're on the phone Saturday night. We're on the phone Sunday. Basically, we're just all the time on the phone. So we want to thank him, and he got a very nice email from the athletic director at Sheehan today, complimenting the staff on getting the buildings done very efficiently and effectively. So thank you for that. So that's what happens at the bottom. The bottom line is that we have $373,169 that's been unallocated at this point. So that's our financial report for February. Any
Amanda, anyone questions? Sorry, I'm rushing ahead.
No.
Okay, Amanda, consensus on the financial report?
Yes.
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 And yes. Okay, the fun part.
The fun part.
Yeah.
so-
item five.
Item 5, I had to get the teacher in me on this one, so I color-coded the documents to help you follow along. Of course, if they're on the computer, I'm sorry. But letter A was to review the sustained services budget from last time, as we do each time, which is the pink sheet, and the new, which is the first sheet in your packet. The new sustained services that we're recommending is a 2.47. The reason for the increase since the last meeting, which we were at a 2.13, is due to the fact that we do, due to the elementary class sizes at the 3-5 level, we have to add 2 additional teachers. So that I had to include. Otherwise, classes would be 24 or 25 in some instances. So we're trying to maintain at this point the numbers of the average class size no higher than 23 at the 3-5 level. The other addition is to add 1 section of each of the content areas at both middle schools to assist with the 8th grade classes. We have 269 students in one 8th grade class, and we have 260 in the other 8th grade across town.
16 or 16?
260.
60.
So a 269 divided by, pretty much 270, divided by 2 teams, is 135, which then you divide it across 5 teachers. You have classes of 26 and 27, depending on how do they fall out. 25, 26. So the thing is that we believe that we need, and we really considered this last year, and because of the budget situation, we did not do it. But this year, we really do, these students really do need that additional section. So what we're looking to do is similarly to what we do at the high school, is offer a teacher a 6th section. So it couldn't be an 8th grade teacher teaching the 6th section. It would have to be a 7th grade or a 6th grade teacher when they're not teaching a class. So they would forego a personal prep period so they can teach the 6th section. And what this number here accounts for is those added 10 sections at the high, we factor at the rate of the pay of the teachers.
Mike?
That's not a complete team, though, is it?
No, it's only gonna be one, like, for example, in 8th grade, it'll be one more math class, one more social studies class, one more science class, one more English language arts, one more world language class.
So instead of a 5-member team, it's gonna be a 6-member team?
Well, no, the person will only teach one period. So this
That's what I
person,
thought first, but-
yeah, the person will only teach one period, so it might be, we might have a large team, a team that's a little bit larger that has an additional class worth of kids, that then those kids would all come from the team, or we could decide to have it as a hybrid class, but usually you try to stick with one team so that teacher doesn't have to, consult with 2 different groups of teachers.
So that person will get 1/6 of their salary?
Correct. We did it once before a couple of years ago, just when algebra was really large. In 8th grade, we had to offer it at, I believe it was at Moran. We had to offer one section for the teacher.
Will they lose their prep period?
Yes, but that's what they,
I know, I'm just asking.
but I had to do, we've gone back
No,
and
that's
forth.
the
And
price they pay for getting
we-
1/6 of their salary.
yeah, no, but we had to go, in terms of this recommendation, we had to make it. It's just to have 135 students on a team is a large group.
So I guess I have a weird question. It seems like a lot for adding one section, 184, because we're hiring 2 elementary school teachers for 115, unless I'm reading this wrong.
It comes down to, the thing is that this is, again, a 1/6 of their salary. So if you take the highest paid salary, you divide it by 6, it comes out to be about $18,000, and we're adding 10 people. We're adding 10 sections.
I just did 70,000 as a salary, and 1/6 would be 11,666.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea.
So, yeah.
I just did it right.
We had to go with the highest, because you
Yeah.
don't know what level the team,
Right.
it could come in less, which would be great, but we can't factor the fact, most of
But
our
you're
middle
losing
school
your
staff
part-time.
that would probably be eligible to do this are veteran senior staff members, so we have to take the highest level staff, divide that by 6,
You know,
or divide it by 5, excuse me, and then add it. Yeah, we have to divide by 5 and then add the extra class.
I'm just curious, how do you choose that person? Is it volunteer,
With the,
or aren't you at that point yet?
we're not at that point yet.
Okay, I'm
We're
just
not at that
curious.
point yet.
Roxanne, do you have a question?
You guys answered and asked my questions.
Yeah, Amanda?
Amanda?
You said that you did this in the past for algebra. Were there any key learnings from that we could maybe utilize should we, do this in this case? As far as anything that might have I don't know, didn't work? I don't
No,
know.
I think it actually, it's really, we had a phenomenal teacher who stepped in, and I don't recall any issues whatsoever, because I think, again, it was the quality person who was in there, made it happen, and extremely organized in what she needed to do.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. It was an algebra teacher who ended up having to teach a 7th grade advanced math class because she was off grade level, because it's the only way you can do it. So this would be, again, these 8th grade classes would be either taught by a 6th grade teacher or a 7th grade teacher. Their certification would cover it, so we're not concerned about that. But it would just be a matter of making certain that they had a free period at a time the 8th grade class was taking place.
That might determine.
Sometimes it does, but it's important that we do this. So again, that brings our sustained services to a 2.47 at this point. So I just wanted to give you, that was part A, to give you an update on sustained services.
Question.
Sure.
Does that include your proposed reductions from last operations meeting, the 2 IT paras and?
That was
I
already
have
in the
ours.
sustained services, yes.
Okay, I just
All
wanna
of that
make
was
sure.
already in there, yep.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh,
Yeah, actually, I have a question, going back to the middle school staff. So I'm trying to see how this plays out. So I'm thinking, it's like, there's a group of kids that are in a team, you know, they're associated with a specific group, a team teacher, and one of those teachers is a math teacher. But now we're gonna have a second math teacher, so the kids that are in that, some of those kids that are in that team will be separated out to go to a different math class? Is that
They'll
how
have a
that-
different, yeah, they'll have a different math
So
teacher.
it's taking that same group of kids that are working around, and some of them are gonna be parceled off to go to a separate teacher for, yeah, okay.
Correct.
Okay, I get it.
Well,
And then science and English and
there's gonna be a
whatever else.
section for each of the main content areas on one team.
Right.
So that team will be generally probably 25 students larger.
Yeah.
So then they would all factor
all,
together.
okay.
So those singleton teachers working with that one team would only have to then collaborate with one group of teachers rather than having them be across 2 grades or across 2 teams. That's too many people.
And then those kids that are they're separating out to go to math, the math is happening at the same time, just in
Correct.
2 different classrooms, and the
Correct.
English is happening at the same time.
Yeah, well,
Right.
they're going to have one of their content and area classes at the same time. So they're going to still go to specials together. It's not going to disrupt anything
Right,
else.
okay.
The students will have their schedule won't change because they'll be having the same schedule. It's just that they'll happen to have a teacher that only teaches one class.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
anyone else?
So that was just for information, just to
Pass these around. We got
get
to
you
go.
up to speed. The next document, which is your salmon or orange, I don't think this is exactly, well, maybe it is salmon. Salmon, it reminds me of the kindergarten, full-day kindergarten. But B is the review of maintenance requests for unencumbered fund use. At our last budget meeting, I believe it was Roxanne who asked us to pull out of the strategic plan the items that were maintenance items to see whether or not there are items on here that we might want to basically earmark towards use of the unencumbered fund balance of the 373. I did have to add one additional item, which is the pot washer. These are exciting items, guys. No, seriously, don't get too excited. The pot washer over at Lyman Hall is not washing properly, so we're doing a lot of manual washing. So we'd have to go out to bid. The staff is doing a phenomenal job. They're meeting all of the sanitation requirements, but it is much more labor much more intensive. And so there's an $18,000 potential expenditure there that I had to add. That was not on the original plan that Mark presented. It's something that just arose over the last couple of months. So when you look at these items, these were ones that we were considering to either suggest as, again, using unencumbered funds or requesting that the mayor uses CRA funds for these. So I just wanted to share that with you. Again, no decision needs to be made tonight, but I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with the information that was requested.
Thank you for doing that.
No worries.
Yes, sorry, Kathy.
It's okay. So my only comment on this one would be the oil tank replacement. If, after the conversations we've had, maybe that could potentially be in another bucket, which would be the bonding.
Yeah, and that's a document in here too that
Okay.
we'll go over.
Anyone
All right.
else?
Now, the purple and the green, these are the strategic plan budget. One has the items that you just saw on the salmon sheet still in it. So that one, the purple one, this is the strategic plan budget. If you flip it over, is 4.13 because those items are included. And the green has those items removed, which makes this strategic plan a 3.81. So I just wanted to share that because I know that would have been potentially a question as to.
this purple one is no good anymore.
No.
Well, it depends. The purple
That's how
one,
you want to show it.
it depends on how you want to accommodate the capital or the maintenance expenditures.
Oh, if we want to keep
If you want to keep these out, if you want to pull them out,
Then it's the green sheet.
then it's the green sheet. If you want to keep them in, then it's the purple sheet.
And it's that three, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're talking, I'm just putting my hand up for a question after you.
Just trying to look back at. So the bottom figure, 3.81. Does that include the sustained?
Correct.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
Karen?
I'm a little puzzled because it was my understanding that we moved up the additional responsive classroom training and supplies to number 6 at our last meeting. I have it in my notes, but I'm not seeing it
Yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. We can move that up. It's a nominal
Number 24.
expense.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
So,
yours. You wanted
Yes.
that moved.
24, it's $8,000,
Thought
so
so.
it's
And
.0008.
the supplies. And the supplies,
Yes.
because we agreed on both of them.
I will,
So it's for a total of $14,000. It was number 24 and 25, and we agreed to
Yeah.
move it up to number 6.
I got you.
Kathy?
I thought the 2 school resource officers were,
It is, but it's not, there's no financial impact, he's just showing it.
I just left them there,
Oh.
but I took out the money.
oh, okay, sorry, didn't
Yeah.
check over to that column, thanks.
Put responsive classroom in
So
there.
the responsive classroom was what were the two numbers again?
8 and 6
They,
thousand.
they were number 24.
14,000.
I just wanted the financial for now,
Yeah, 14,000.
because then this gives me a new bottom line as you go through.
So if you add 14,000 to your 2.98 budget,
It goes to-
101. Yeah, what does that get you to?
2.99.
Ooh, thank you.
If you remove what?
If I do
Moving-
what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, just moving that
I
14,000
wasn't gonna
to
forget
I-
that.
basically where the
I call it
resource
like it is.
officers
If
are.
I do what I
It
was
would change
supposed to
that
do.
2.98 to 2.99. It's 1/10%,
Yeah,
basically.
it's because it's very nominal. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's- But still,
Important,
Bottom line still the same.
still
Right.
important.
yeah, the
It's
bottom
just-
line doesn't.
It's just placing it differently.
So, those are the strategic plan documents. The last document I just want to share before we entertain a direction for this evening these are the recommended capital projects, and I want to walk you through this because it may get a little confusing. The first column, this 2016-17, is phase 3. So that's new work that we're recommending this year. It would not commence until July 1st, 2017-18. So what initially we're recommending is only $980,000, potentially moving over the boilers, so that'd be a full $1 million. You'll note the second column is much more hefty, and the rationale, and Mark could speak to this, is that we have a lot of projects that the mayor has already approved that we have to complete. And again, as we've talked about, Mark's staff is working as quickly as possible, purchasing is working as quickly as possible, but we have several large projects that we have to complete. So that's why this year we did not put out a lot of capital projects to the mayor for his recommendation or for his approval, because we don't want to bite off more than we can chew, so to speak. Because if you have these linger for years and years and years, people then don't feel that you're doing your job. And so Mark and I had a heart-to-heart, and we agreed that we wanted to go a little bit less this year, because realistically speaking, we couldn't get much more work than these things done in relation to what we already have done. I don't know if you want to add to that, Mark.
We currently have major projects that are on the verge of starting this summer, and they're, the stage lighting projects at the 2 middle schools and 2 high schools. It's major, has the potential to be at least $2 million. The window project that's in the design phase that we're wrapping up right now, that's replacement windows for 4 schools, including Lyman Hall High School, which is obviously another major component. And we have a few other things like the blue light panic alarms in the schools. We're in the process of awarding that contract right now. So there's a tremendous amount of work that's planned for this summer. So we were cautious. We took a cautious approach when it came to expanding that amount of work. we're a relatively small department, and it would not be a good idea to take on some of these other jobs at this time, but we're always looking to do more. So the following year, we'll have more projects. And we will be meeting with Jimbo shortly and present a few more items to him for his consideration as far as bondable projects, including the Parker Farms oil tank.
Roxanne?
Yeah, I just have one, that all makes sense, I'm good with everything you guys both said, but I do have one question. As it relates to Sheehan's football field, you've got that in, I guess, 2018-19? 17, well, actually 17-18, but the work would commence in 19. Realistically, can the field sustain itself that long? I know we're at a close to life expectancy, I'm worried about that.
The field is still serviceable, so I don't foresee that as being a big issue. My staff know, we know how to mend it. We've been trained.
Yeah.
We can add rubber infill to it so we can rejuvenate it. To actually fail a safety test, the impact test that they do, conditions have to be really bad, way beyond what we have. And we do have more infill, and my staff will be replacing some of that this spring as soon as the weather breaks.
Okay.
And what we would be planning to do, Mark and I already spoke about it, and that's why the projects you'll note that we put on here are kind of like one event.
Right,
They're big projects,
Sure,
but they're
sure.
not multifaceted.
yeah.
Is that we would have to go decide as a board to get quotes this summer, more official quotes, that then we would have to go to the mayor like we always do
Well,
the
we
first
talked
month.
about that,
And then we have to get right on the town council agenda by mid-year, so then we can go out to bid in appropriate timelines that work can commence July 1st. Now, again, where it's not like what we had to do at Lyman Hall, so it's not as much work, but
Right.
it's still work. It's still
Significant, yeah.
correct.
Yeah, I was just concerned. I want to make sure we don't lose track of that.
Abs-
It's a big nut, number one, and number two, obviously, the safety of the students. So, thank you.
Mike?
These lists are just things that we need to have done,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not prioritized anywhere.
These
They
have
are
been,
here.
they have been prioritized by Mark and his department based on the year that they need to occur, based on the timing.
But we're, like, that second column is like enormous. I mean,
Well-
we don't expect, do we, to get that fully funded?
Well, we have in the,
We have,
we
actually.
have.
You'd be shocked what
yeah.
the mayor's given us
Yeah.
for some of these capital expenditures.
They-
We
they-
have been averaging that.
There's a document, and this is a truncated form because I didn't want to, first of all, it wouldn't fit, but there's a document, I believe it's in your budget book in the strategic plan section, which talks about work in progress. And if you look at the first two columns, the funding has been significant. It's been well over $7 million. So there's been a tremendous amount that we have gotten. So it does seem like a lot. Maybe we're not going to get the full 9, but I think that, again, as we move forward, there has been a will, and we have been working on it. And we'll meet with him, and he'll go, we'll go through it piece by piece. And but they've turned out to be very, very thoughtful and positive meetings.
And you know what's nice when you meet with the mayor like that, too, on a regular basis, he gets a sense of what is the status of they're his they're the town's properties. I mean, so, it's important for the municipal side to know the condition of our properties, their properties, all of ours as a community, so that nobody can say they're blindsided by it. But the mayor has been I have to echo Dr. Menzo's comments. And again, this board is the one that initiated that. You guys in this room were the ones that voted and pushed that forward, and he has been extremely receptive. But I say this all the time, as a board, we should be very proud. This was a huge departure of how business was done in this community in the past. So I feel very strongly about that. We should feel good about that as a board. And the cooperation, that says a lot about, on the municipal side, that the relationship is a good one for that.
How many of the boilers do we need to replace? All of them.
That's why I looked at him, because
What, you
that
want
was
to
going
add
to
your
be,
personal boiler at your home?
Mike, that was going to be my answer, except Moses, why?
We did replace the boilers at Moses White Beach.
That's funny.
most of the heating plants are beyond what they consider to be a good usable lifespan. That's based on a few things, serviceability and energy use, because typically old boilers use a lot more energy than newer equipment. But our boilers, for the most part, are still serviceable. You know, if a steel boiler gets a leak, crack, fails, and you bring a welder in, our stamp welder is somebody that's approved by our insurance company. If they say it's repairable, you can keep doing that till the end of time. We have the boilers that we took out of Moses White Beach. Physically, there was no issues with those boilers, other than they were as old as the building and used a tremendous amount of energy every day, even if they weren't running, because of the flue. You know, it pulls air through the boiler 24/7. That's energy loss. Yeah, yeah. So it's always beneficial to to look at these things. You should really look at boilers every 10 years to determine whether there's any money to be saved. And we have another job in the works right now, which is the thing that I think is our next biggest priority, and that's the Lyman Hall boilers. One was replaced on an emergency basis probably almost 30 years ago. It was an economy boiler that was plugged in because one of the boilers that was there failed. It burnt up. And so we have kind of an odd situation there. We don't have two boilers that don't match. If we update that system, we're working on specs for that right now. It's probably going to be anywhere from 4 to 6 smaller boilers that'll be modular. It gives us a greater turn down ratio so we can reduce our lowest firing rate, which will save a ton of money, especially in a school that large.
So, Mark, will that address the issue with Lyman Hall? I know some classrooms are, boiling hot and they're opening the windows and other rooms are freezing cold. Will that sounds like that would help that situation? Yes or no?
It really has nothing to do with the end units that heat the school. That school has console units in each classroom, and if you have 80 console units, every day you're going to have a few that don't work one way or another, whether it's cold or too hot. We actually have very few, when you look at the big scheme of things, there are very few issues with those units. We sometimes get complaints, people don't understand that moving air can cause you to feel cool. The air that comes into a room can only be at your set point. So if you want the room to be 70 degrees, that discharge can't be 80 degrees to feel warm to somebody that's feeling it up against their skin. That's a common problem with air handlers in schools. Even duct air conditioning and heating, same issue. If it blows on you, you will be uncomfortable. And unfortunately, when you renovate buildings, you don't always spread this out. Your airflow tends to be very concentrated in small areas. It's a problem that will never go away until we build new buildings.
Well, thank you for explaining the dilemma that I've always had I have this fight with my husband all the time in the car because it'll be set at 7 and I'll go, but it's cold air coming out of there. He's going, it's 70 degrees. So thank you for explaining my issue.
So, in terms of this document, we want to add the oil tank replacement or the boiler from Parker Farms, oil tank removal rather from this. We want to add this to that, or that to this rather. So this would be $1 million request. So that'll be, we would go to the mayor on this. We've already, when it comes to boilers, he's been pretty supportive. The windows are another area that we must make note of. He's very supportive in those areas too, because he's, obviously you see it as a potential savings, down the line because of efficiency. So this, we just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that those are the items this year, and the reason why we weren't going to bring more at this point wasn't because we were trying to do anything other than the fact get caught up on the projects that we already have. Okay? Is that all right? Okay. So now we need to kind of circle back around, and circling back around to the initial point from last time was, do we want, as we discussed, and we have to come to consent tonight on a percentage increase to send to the mayor. So we need to have a consent taken tonight because then Tony Ed and I would be working on the documents to make sure that they're prepared for the mayor and for your board meeting for you to take official vote, which would be a roll call vote on the 27th of February. But the thing that we need to decide is, do we want to, in terms of the maintenance items that we pulled out on the salmon sheet, do we want to keep those out of our initial request at this time and review them on a monthly basis, or review our unencumbered fund balance on a monthly basis and decide over the course of the next few months that these are items that we might want to consider for purchase, or do we want to leave them in the budget for a recommendation at this time?
Comments, questions? Roxanne?
Thank you. I wouldn't even go so far as to say unencumbered funds available. I would say possible funding through CRRA, period.
Okay.
That's just me. I mean, obviously we can default. We know that that's a default mechanism for us to use unencumbered balance funds.
Sure.
They're not recurring expenses, but I like the idea of pulling it out. Obviously, that was my suggestion, but I will defer to the board. But because I don't want to give, to me, unencumbered funds is the tertiary level.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, I got it.
Karen, did you have a question? All right, so if there's no one else, do you guys want to take consensus on pulling out these and keeping them for funding through CRRA?
So
So I just have a comment. I just would want to make sure that we give a heads up to the mayor that that's what we're doing. You know, I don't want to blindside him
this year,
afterwards.
and what I wanted to say, and I could say it now because I was going to say before the night was over, that this year, what I'd like to do within the next week or two is to set up a meeting for myself and Roxanne and whomever else would like to come, just to meet with the mayor and talk him through our budget recommendations. So this is the percentage increase, this is the dollar amount, but we're also recommending that you use, if there is CRA funds available, you use those to help us fund these projects. Then you also provide us capital funds to fund these projects. So give it to him ahead of time, before you all take a vote, so that he's prepared, so that he's not hearing it for the first time on February 27th. I also have to be candid and I don't believe this will happen, but I really do want to ask the mayor to consider, I know April 1st is his date that he usually gives us, but I think in light of the challenges that we may face as a town and potentially as a Board of Education, I know he has his number crunching to do, but if there's any way to expedite that process, that might be helpful. I don't think it's going to happen because I know he has a lot of departments to go through and his process starts later. But it's challenging because when you look at getting that on April 1st and then a week later we're in front of the town council, the week later, we have an April vacation. The week later, then we're back in front of the town council, and then they vote 2 weeks later. If depending on where the reduction is made, or if there is a reduction to whatever we give, which most likely there would be, that's a lot of work to start pulling together some ideas. And I think this year, unfortunately, when we do go to town council, we are going to have some better formulated ideas than we've had in the past. Not that we haven't had ideas formulated, but we haven't shared them because we didn't know, it wasn't as significant as this may be. So my concern is that I just would like to try to ask the mayor to, if at all possible, provide us with his expectations earlier so that we have an extra week or two. And I understand where he's coming from. He might not have the ability to do that, but I just think it's worth the ask. Because again, as we all know, that the mayor's budget has to be approved the second Tuesday in May, and the governor's budget doesn't get approved until the first week of June. So we already have a situation where the mayor is going to have to be, obviously he'll have his ear to the ground and he'll listen to what's going on at the state, but he's going to have to kind of take an educated guess as to what the funding for the town of Wallingford might be. So we're already going to be in a tough, bind. I also just want you to know that I am planning to send a letter to the state of Connecticut, asking them to relieve us of our responsibility of raising the Lyman Hall enrollment to 340 students. in light of the governor's reduction. I believe that it's unrealistic for us to have to meet that requirement. I think that if other districts can get a second pool in their community and be waived, I think we could be waived this right. So I've already talked to our attorney. We're going to compose a letter and send that. Give me a couple of days off with snow and I have some ideas. So that letter will go out because I just don't think it's a fair burden to put on the school district. If you're going to make those reductions, then unfortunately we have to come back. And so what I would like to do is send that to the construction office, because that was where the letter came from, but also send it to our local representatives and state senator to make sure that they're all aware of the fact that this is an unnecessary, undue, and unfair burden.
Great, thank you, Sal.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You'll CC us on that letter.
Oh, absolutely.
Just saying.
So we have the recommendation for the CRA funds. Is there consensus on that?
We didn't go around. Just consensus to propose it is what we're looking for to the
Yes.
mayor.
Yes.
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 Thank you. All right, so then the next thing is we have to get to a bottom line that we want to send to the mayor. So I'll pause and I'll let you guys have a conversation.
That's using
Well, okay, so knowing that, we can avoid, based on what we just took consensus on, we can avoid looking at the strategic plan. I don't know, I don't have color
So now you
coded.
could take the
The
purple,
including
look at the
maintenance
green.
items, get rid of that.
You're looking, yes.
You're looking at the green.
Without maintenance items is the one you're going to look at.
Right,
So it's the green for those who have
Right.
colored.
yeah, I just printed
No,
it.
no worries.
Is this the time to move things around if we want to, or
No,
just leave it
I
the way
don't,
it is?
I have a good.
I think-
Thank you, though.
I don't know.
I personally think that at this point, and you could do whatever you'd like, but I think that really right now you need to look at a percentage
Percentage.
that you're comfortable with. I think the items themselves will have ample opportunity to move.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna say what I feel right now, because this weekend gave me a lot of anxiety, as I'm sure I gave most of you. I am uncomfortable personally requesting more than what we need to sustain, because I really don't see us getting it, first of all. I'm very concerned about that. And second of all, like, I look at some of these items, and while I know they're much needed positions, I especially worry about our elementary school principals being overworked. I really do. But you're talking about adding, it's not just this one-time dollar amount. Anytime you add a position, you're adding to your next year's sustained services budget. And with the current climate, it really scares me. So my gut feeling is that what we propose right now is our sustained services budget request. That's my gut. But I don't know how you guys feel. Anyone?
Bueller?
Bueller? You know, Shauna, I'll go. I mean,
Yeah,
fine, I'll go.
okay.
Yeah, I'll go. I generally believe that you should always submit a budget that is truly, truly reflective of what you need to move a district forward. And it's up to the municipal side to say yes or no, or a version of that which. I always believe that you need to, you know, shame on us if we don't tell people what we need to move the district forward. Doesn't mean you're gonna get it. But I always think there's value in having those conversations. And, you know, these people here spent a lot of time coming up with what they feel is critical for moving our district forward. So I always want to show respect to the work that goes into, and I'm not saying you're not respecting that, the thoughtful conversations that all these administrators did, and the feedback they got from certified staff and everybody to get to why we need these strategic items. So I always believe in asking, you know, as a self-employed person, if you don't ask, you don't get. So that's my mantra. Having said that, you know, obviously the wind has been blown out of our sails over the last week. You know, one piece that I just learned about, and I think I understand this correctly, and is going to be a huge decision on the municipal side, though we might be looking at a $10 million nut in reduction. If I understand this correctly, there's an opportunity for the first time for communities that have medical facilities in their respective towns that they can now tax those. And what does that look like? And that's not a decision for us to make, but that is a decision that town council needs to make. And we obviously have two highly successful health providers that are tax-free currently. So what does that mean in this equation? Is it a variable? We don't know. But these are all, I think that's a really important variable that we can't overlook. That there are revenue sources that potentially this town can look at that they haven't looked at before. The other thing that I know Sal and I, get on our bandwagon about how we can help the municipal side save money, whether we're combining services, whether we can teach them about lean. There's a lot of things that we could be doing to supplement and help the municipal side to even get a fraction to where we are in terms of cost savings on Board of Ed. And again, it's the hard work of these people sitting around this table that have done that. So as much as I see a very significant, punch to the stomach that this town got delivered, there are things that need to be looked at and discussed that could change the climate and not make it look as tsunami-ish, if there's such a word, as the mayor presented. So I think you have to consider that too. I think that's we just all have to take a collective breath. And I really do believe what the governor is proposing and what the governor will get will be two very, very different things. But we still don't know what that means. So I'm torn because I've thrown a lot of stuff out there, and I do feel like I want to be responsible and really responsible to taxpayers in particular this year. So though I'm torn, I would like to give a little bit higher than a sustained services. I definitely don't think I could support over 3%. I would like to see it under 3%. What I don't have a magic number in my mind, but that's just something because what I like about my fear of if we just submit a sustained services budget, then we've basically eliminated the opportunity to talk about strategic plan items. We've eliminated it. Right. And so we're saying, you know what, all we need is 2.47. Well, that may be true from a sustained services, but I still think we owe our students, our educators, and our community the opportunity to make that decision to say no. And I still think we have an obligation to provide strategic plan items for discussion and let them say, sorry, but it's just not going to happen this year. Can't take that summer vacation. You can't have those family resource center, whatever it is. But I don't want to eliminate the conversation of what strategic plan items are. And I'm afraid if we just submit a sustained services, we in essence have cut ourselves off at the knees because we've eliminated that discussion, right?
Yeah.
So that provides angst for me. So even though, I'm not sure what the magic number is and what those items would be, bless you. I still, and our community is used to getting a sustained services and a strategic plan budget. I still think we have an obligation to the community to provide that reasonably, not, super high budget, but just so that people know that they're making a decision with their eyes wide open and with as much information as possible. And where the cards fall, they fall.
And Kathy, just 1 second. I'm sorry. I think that was very well said, and I completely understand your logic. I want to make sure that people know that we're taking into account the situation. We recognize it. You know what I'm saying? And so, but well said, and I understand 100% where you're coming from, and honestly, I could fall either way.
Right, right. And you know what? And we know, we're gonna have many, many conversations with the public, with municipal, through potluck, through, we're the ones that go up there and, get the questions from the town council as well as from the community. So and we can work through that and make that perfectly clear that we're sensitive to the climate. But again, I think
No, I hear
that can be articulated.
Kathy?
So I think I say this every budget season. Exactly, basically what you said, Roxanne, about, I think it's our responsibility, both to be fiscally cognizant of the situation, but also to let the powers that are going to make the final decision understand what it is that we need, what we need, and what's on our strategic plan.
Right.
Some of these items are not, to me, they're not strategic in a perspective of truly like a strategy type of thing. It's update teacher laptops. That's not really, it's strategic, it's on our strategic plan, I understand, but you know what I mean? It's not, oh, we're gonna create this new innovative, no, we're giving teachers the tools that they need to do their job. Things like that. So a lot of these things, I think it's important for the town council and for the mayor to see these items, because they're not truly wants, they are truly needs. They're needs. So again, we understand what the figure that we present to the mayor. Historically, we have never gotten the figure that we present, but I think we have to do our due diligence in showing him what it is we need, and he's got the difficult decision of saying, but you're going to have to do without some of it, and here's your final figure. So I would agree with you that I think we need to go in higher than just the sustained budget. To be honest with you, I was thinking of adding a full %, so going like 2.47, but
3.47.
I'm sorry, 3.47.
Mike?
I agree. I think we need to send an increase other than over the sustained budget, because I think we do have to, as everybody said, show that we are looking into the future, and we do have a strategic plan for a reason. My only concern is that some of these items and the order in which they are, I might disagree with, so I'd have a hard time fighting for 3.4% for
I
some of
agree
those
with you.
things that I really don't want, maybe.
And I really would want, I think if we're going to go above the sustained, I think this year, I think you all need to come comfortable with what a percentage is. Then I do think we need to have a conversation tonight on what makes up that percentage, because you bring up a very good point, Mike. I don't want to be divided. We haven't been divided in the past, and I don't want people to feel like any of you feel that you're fighting for something that's not what you really wanted. So I think we need to get to is it a 3, is it a 3 point, whatever it is, and then we can, and that's why I have the spreadsheet here, so I can move things around and we can come up with a number, like I always do over here. So, but I agree with you. You have to be passionate. If there's a year that you have to be passionate about what's on this document, this is the year that you have to be passionate, because it is going to be much more of a challenge.
You're reading my mind, you're scaring me.
Well, no, it's almost 8 years, buddy.
Scares you too. So let's see. Do you want me to come up with a number? Is that it? Or
I heard 3.47-ish. I heard a 3.
2.98. I can't do 3.
2.98.
Yeah, or 2.99.
It's
It's like I'm a car saleswoman, 2.99. What can I
A
do?
3.47.
Because that gives me my responsive classroom.
Do I hear another number? I'll be an auctioneer.
3.
A 3.
I like 2.99.
So I got 2.99.
No, I do. And I can finagle what I want.
I have 2.
You are.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I'm open to suggestion on what
Shauna, are
the
you at the
students need.
2.4?
I think that the arguments are valid. I could go 2.99 as well.
Okay, Jay?
I'd just like to make a couple of comments first. A request, actually. So this situation, as we all know, is not a one-year situation. It's not a 2-year situation. It's a long-term situation. The state is in big financial trouble. They're finally starting to realize or acknowledge, right? And if we're in a no-growth state economy, right? Unfortunately, locally, we're in a no-growth economy now. I mean, it's really too bad. For all the good things in Wallingford, you know, it's a victim of Connecticut in the Northeast. We're in a no-growth mode. Yeah, everybody saw it in the paper the other day. But I think that there's nothing more important we can do as a town than provide our kids a strong education. What chance are they going to stand in the future without as good of education as generations have ever had? And we're not going to do it off the money we're going to get as increases year to year. So I believe, I agree with everyone that we've got to continue to move the district forward. There's been great stuff done, and there's a lot to be done. I don't know where my list is now. But all these items we have in the strategic plan, those things need to be done. But I believe we have to find new ways to skin the cat, because it ain't going to come from the traditional sources. What I would like to do is request that we create a board-level committee to begin to talk with other boards of education about things that we can do together. Sal and his group are doing some stuff internally from an administrative standpoint with other towns, but to look at it across the board and see if we can find, it's not gonna happen now, but maybe over the next couple of years or so, if we can find maybe 2, 3, 4 towns in the area, towns that are like us, that we can start to do things we can start to do, look at things we can start to do together collaboratively, rather than doing them on our own.
I'm already, it's funny, Jay, now I'm reading your mind. We already have a meeting, and I told Carrie about this, Cindy doesn't know about it, and I don't want to say the district because they have to talk to their leadership, and but we have another district that we're gonna entertain conversations with next week, a bordering district, smaller, because we do have to look at the size, but you know, we do have some open positions in our district, looking at some shared services opportunities, and so that is a goal of ours.
That's
I
great.
went to a CROG meeting last week, the Capital Regional, or Capital, I forgot what it stands for, but it's Organization of Governments. And they're doing a lot of what I was able to do in my last district in a regional situation where you can collaborate in a very different way. We might have, you know, some opportunities for a discussion at the town level because some of it might be a little bit different than the normal opportunities. But we are going to engage in the conversations. We have to, in thinking about it, I was on a regional task force about 5 years ago for regionalism and regionalization, because being in a small district coming to a larger district. So what I'm hoping is that from these conversations, we do have to look at the size, because we don't want to go to a district that's the same size as us, because you're not going to see necessarily a benefit. You need to have somebody who's kind of like the yin and the yang. So I've been doing that thought process, and I have a very a close colleague that I think we might be able to work with. So our goal is to try to have those conversations. Initially at the central office level, we're setting up a meeting for our teams to meet, including special education and technology, and then coming back, and then we can integrate, invite board members to be part of that. But we have to think that way. We also have to, realistically speaking, I know the plan of conservation and development was done. To be honest, I don't think it went as far as it should have. Or could have. I think it's a lot of we could talk about this, or we can go research this, but there's no action. I think that when we look at our district and we look at our town, I know the conversation comes up of the one high school. I'm not suggesting that that's where we're going, because I to be honest, I have to say I think that ship might have sailed, because especially with the governor's bonding issues, and he's saying that certain bonding, he's not gonna provide for school construction. So we have to look at how do we make 2 high schools 1 high school. And we have to think creatively. How do you take the concept of 2 buildings and make them work as one, rather than 2 separate entities? And so we need to think about that. I don't have the answers, but these are the things, again, give me 2 snow days and a weekend. So I'm pleased to hear what you're saying. Because this is very supportive of what we're going to try to do. So thank you for supporting that.
Thank you for all the stuff you're doing as well. I would suggest that we also, though, start a board level one.
Yeah, no, I think that's
We're
great.
talking to other boards of education.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where on a lot of this stuff where your colleagues are really gonna need the help.
Yep. And I
Right,
think
and
that would
it's-
be great for, you know, with your connection to CAVE.
Yeah, and, you know, and again, it's not gonna happen tomorrow, but it may down the road, cause I'm sure every one of those districts has to be sitting
Well,
around, just like we are tonight, and we're gonna all be doing it a year from now and 2 years from now. And if we can find school systems that are similar to us, how much can be different, right? We're all trying to accomplish
Yeah,
the same
there's some
thing.
core practices, and that's what we want to start that conversation.
Yeah.
The other thing is that if you look at the makeup, and I'm trying to get more information, but when you look at the governor presented his new, you know, cost mechanism, and he talked about Husky A, and he talked about Medicaid, and we do have to leverage our Medicaid, and Rob has done a great job. I know he also sent out a memo today, you know, encouraging people to make sure that they get their billable time, because Medicaid is money that comes into our districts to offset other expenditures. But we also have to look at Husky Part A. And I want to have a conversation with our nurse coordinator on how we can look at that, because there are districts now, I know, that are considering hiring a full-time person to just make sure that all parents that are eligible for Husky Part A are signing up. If that's going to be a direct key holder or gatekeeper to funding to the town, they're figuring out the cost of that one person is going to be less than the money they can get in through having people sign up for Husky Part A. So that's
more of an
another thing.
Educational thing that
Yes.
parents don't realize they're eligible.
Yeah, so I have to take a look at that closer and we're gonna have a conversation at central office on Wednesday to determine whether or not there might be a regional opportunity also to look at, rather than us hiring a person to help assist in these areas, but maybe hiring somebody with another district to share the cost, but they both have the same mission, to make sure that we're getting our billable hours, we're getting our claims in, and doing it from a regional perspective to save our costs. So I was just looking at what made up his calculation, and I said, okay, how do we maximize our potential to get the most in this new calculation? So taking apart the discrete pieces. So it is, you know, these are the things that kind of, it's a challenge, but it's also a strategy behind it, so.
Yeah, great. Okay, and in terms of a number,
Yes.
again, I agree with everybody that we do have a responsibility to move the district forward. And I would propose that we go with the top 3 priorities in our strategic plan, which would bring us to a 2.92 number.
All right, Amanda.
2.99.
All right. So if I take this again, Kathy, you were at a
I'll go down to 2.99.
Push over, Cal.
Kathy, I love you. Mike, you were at a 3.
You got it.
Okay. And then I had 5 at
be
2.99 and Jay at a 2.92. So 2.99 if we took consensus. Now the question is on that 2.99. I just want to make sure the items are items that you all can support. So we really need to take a look at those closely, if you don't mind.
All right, so I'm gonna suggest holding off on any new hires. That's gonna be the first thing I throw out, and I know that the top, I'm gonna say 3 items, it looks like, are new hires. And my reasoning behind that is because it's not a one-time expenditure. And I know with the NIAC, and my heart goes out to the principals of the elementary schools. I know their workload is increasing, and I know that they're necessary, but I just can't see in good conscience going forward knowing that next year's sustained services is gonna increase by that much plus whatever is in the current contracts. That's my suggestion.
So it's only 2 instructional coaches next year, correct?
Correct.
What do you mean? Two?
The
There's more
request
than
is
hires
for
than
2.
We got a
that.
little paragraph
Yeah, the
there.
request is 2 next year and then an additional 2 the following year, but it's only 2 each year.
2 is 150.
Yeah.
Right, but there's more than that in terms of hiring, what these guys have listed for their strategic plan for hiring.
But I'm just talking next year.
Right, I
So
am
it's
too.
only 2.
Well, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of instructional coaches, it's
Read
2,
that
but what
little
Roxanne,
Right, for
yeah, but what
but-
Roxanne is saying is that there are, if we go under the premise that Shauna just stated, which
Oh, I
was
wasn't
to not, okay.
Well,
Shauna
that's
just-
an important thing.
Shauna just stated that she was recommending that we defer all, in the strategic plan, we
Oh, I
defer all
understand that. I
personnel.
was just
Okay.
getting clarification that there's
Oh,
only 2
okay.
being hired next year.
For the instructional coaches, that's
That's
all
it,
that's being
right.
recommended, correct. Sorry.
Karen, sorry.
let's talk about the early childhood coordinator. Is that, do we require that NIAC accreditation to maintain our Smart Start
Yes.
grants?
Yeah.
So that concerns me, because then we could potentially be losing that money.
I mean, we have to, I mean, we're gonna get it done. I mean, I look to Carrie. Carrie's gonna get this done. And she's already started on it because we have a renewal that's due in the next couple of weeks. So she's been working on that already while she's also still principal. So she's been working in between the two. But the challenge and the opportunity is that obviously with the pre-K, there is the responsibility for the NIAC accreditation and the follow-up and the reports and all the pieces that come with it.
Roxanne?
Thank you. You know, actually, I do respect your point of view about recurring expenses. I mean, that's obviously any human resource is going to be but you know, if you really look at their top 34 items, and we've removed the capital projects, whether they're bondable or we're suggesting through CRA funding, there isn't a lot here other than that. You know, this is the way I feel. This is the way I feel about this. What is on the strategic plan? I'm not an educator. I don't live in your world. I sort of do, but I don't. I trust you guys to prioritize. I would go with your prioritization, and the only caveat I would make to that is what Karen, I mean, if a board member feels strongly about moving an item, I respect that, and I'll support that board member if there's specific items. I have no problem with that. Other than that, I kind of feel like whatever you folks have recommended, I'll follow suit, and, you know, I'll go with that, so I could be swayed.
What I try to do, if I may, I try to look at items that really directly affect children. For instance, number 3, you know, the interventionist on the 3-5 level. That directly affects children, assisting children in math and reading. I think that's very important.
Well, the top 5 do that.
Well, indirectly, number 2 does, not directly. I mean, you're helping teachers teach, whereas the interventionist is a one-on-one with a child or whatever.
I see what you're saying.
I definitely think the dean of students is something that we could postpone. I don't think that's a necessity right now. In my opinion, I'm not too sure what you had in mind or all the responsibilities would be, but from my experience as an educator.
You have that in your documents, so you can read up on that for
Right.
next year. It's below the 299.
Say that again?
Above.
It's the dean of students is below the
Yeah, well,
299.
I'm not, that's what I'm saying, though. I'm not,
No, I'm saying it wouldn't be considered because it's below that. It's above. It's more money.
Right.
I know that, but what I'm saying is, what if people want to switch some other things around?
Oh,
That might
okay. I
change
haven't
that.
heard that one yet.
Okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm looking at again is those things that directly affect children. Now Chromebooks, for instance, the students do use those, don't they, in the classroom? And that
Yeah, we
helps in many ways. Things like that, to me, I would like to pick out and say, this becomes my priority, and see if it fits under 2.99. I'm not sure if I'm being clear.
No, I understand what
The
you're
grade 5 social studies research lab texts, I know those are textbooks. I'm not too sure what a lab text is, unfortunately, but,
I think it's basically the name of the
All right.
resource. It's just a textbook.
you know, things like, now, responsive classroom. We've already had some of that done, correct? This is just a continuation of,
Yeah, but that's the item that Karen wanted bumped.
oh, that's right, sorry.
So that and the 6,000, the supplies.
It's a really important program.
I'm not sure about the adult ed and how important, well, that's way up there anyway, so I guess it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
well, but again, to your point, unless you want to bump out, I mean, you could,
Exactly, yeah.
you could remove something for 150,000
You're
and
right,
bump
yeah.
like 8 things,
Like
you know,
ESL
for,
instructors, we have a lot more students in who that would affect, is that true? I mean, we have many ESL students.
do we feel we are?
That's for the
Well, I guess
adult
if you
education.
put it there, you must know that that's.
It's for the adult education, but it's a lower priority at this point.
Okay.
And I would not consider moving that up. I think that, I think the Junior Bridge Academy, which I think that's a very important piece. That is a
That's
why I didn't touch that.
And that's not a lot of
I think
money.
it has a tremendous amount of value. I'm praying we can get that done because I think it'll make such a difference for our students.
So, I think you answered this once before for me, but the Family Resource Center, did we pilot that though this year and one?
We
was
have
it
it-
through a grant?
No, it's what we're doing is we're actually assisting youth in social services, and so basically what they're doing is the We Care is providing us some resources, and we're using it in that. So it's human resources that they already have. It's not new human resources.
Right.
They're just reallocating. I personally think at this point, I think we have to put that one to the side. To be honest.
Yeah. The Family Resource Center?
And then you have-
Yeah, this is right.
Hold on,
I'm not
Jay-
acknowledging.
Jay has something to say.
Oh,
Sorry.
thanks. Sal, if the board were to direct you to prioritize the strategic items based on the direct impact on students, how would you change the priorities that you have there?
I think that the early childhood coordinator I would keep still. I think the instructional coaches, I think I would definitely keep.
Okay, wait a minute. You said the instructional coaches and the,
Early childhood.
So
I think the
one and
first
two.
three I would keep. I think the one that, and I know it's not necessarily a popular decision in the audience, I think I would look at the Family Resource Center and maybe hold off on that and try to look at other community resources. I think that's an opportunity we have to investigate. So I would probably replace that with $50,000 worth of Chromebooks. And then I would keep Junior Bridge Academy and Responsive Classroom and call it a night.
I love it.
what's the responsive, that's what
I know that that's.
Karen wanted?
Yeah.
So what would that look like from a financial standpoint?
Well, if we do the 50,000,
Let me ask you this question while you're doing that. Would you consider doing one Family Resource Center instead of doing two?
yeah, I
that
mean,
too-
you could.
I'm just trying to think of other,
I mean, right
alternatives.
now, I think we can continue to do what we're doing at Moses Y without additional costs. So
and that's
that would
through the We Care?
That's through We Care.
Yeah.
So then if you do one, your added cost, so you're dividing that, so it's what, 26,450? Or no, excuse me, 21,450.
21,450.
So you have 21,450. So you could take 21,450 and then take the if you do, let me just explain this. If I add $50,000 instead of the 42,900,
Nine.
it brings it to a 3% to get to responsive classroom. So if you wanted to do one resource center at the 21,450 and the remainder of that for Chromebooks, and you made that 50,000, those two things, you would get the priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is responsive classroom now, for 3%.
So,
What about the Chromebooks?
There would be it'd be like $29,000 worth of Chromebooks, so $28,000 instead of $100,000.
Okay, so then instead do $22,000 worth of Chromebooks, 2.99.
You could do that also. You could
Just
do that.
saying.
You could do that also.
Can you,
I don't know what the magic number of Chromebooks.
No, I know what
but
you're saying.
you
I
get the
understand.
idea.
We'd want to look. I'd have to talk to my supplier and ask her how much the
hold on.
Chromebook.
Tammy, and then Amanda, and then Mike.
no, I didn't say anything. Yet.
Yeah.
Look, from all the family engagement stuff that I do, you guys know I go to all the little state things that they have.
So there it
We
is.
are behind the times on this.
On
And
what?
this isn't just
On the family
resource
center for the sake of families. The benefit of that helps, as we're seeing in the early education grades, when there's need out there, we're reacting in the middle of the year and we're identifying there's need, now we need to implement, and we need to have more resources, and we need to have more students who have special education. The Family Resource Center can help us get ahead of that. It is the equivalent of putting in full-day kindergarten. We head off problems by doing that. Now, Wallingford being as rich as we are, we don't get the benefit of getting like a $30,000 grant like one of our neighboring towns to build a P We have volunteers who set up this, the SEL program that was just done last week at Parker Farms in Cook Hill. That was phenomenal. I'm still getting compliments on that, and I had nothing to do with it. But those are the types of resources, if you wanna talk about a Wallingford promise, if you wanna talk about a connection between students, parents, and teachers, we have to start that somewhere. We have to have that connection before the kid walks in for preschool or for kindergarten. And that's where the Family Resource Center can help.
So,
And if you wanna know where to fund it, we just get rid of the high school chairs.
get rid of the high school.
Chairs. Not
Department
chairs,
chairs, not real
department
seats.
chairs. Now,
Kids,
oh,
no. Kids would not
sorry,
be.
I was like,
Kids
what?
would not be sitting on the floor. Don't worry.
I was like, that's a real Tammy.
That's next year.
So, and Amanda and Mike, I know you both have
Bean bags
questions.
for everyone.
I just want to say something to that. Tammy, I completely agree with you about the value of family resource centers. And I've been to the one at Moses Y, and I can tell you the moms who participate love it. But I'm going to state again, and this comes from somebody who really believes everything that you say. It is not the school's job to take care of that. It is out there for the community. We have, and I had the list, and I'm sorry I forgot, of how many family service organizations are in Wallingford. I'm not even talking about outside. And so I don't see any reason why these organizations, you could talk Youth and Social Services, YMCA, Boys and Girls, I mean, there's a list. We care, and they're already there. Why they can't partner together, and we haven't, and I'm not gonna say Dr. Menzo hasn't asked him because we missed our meeting this week because of the snow, but one of the things that we were talking about was going and reaching out to these organizations and getting them to come and fund this or bring their resources in, because to ask the school to take on yet one more burden of society that would help our students, I just don't think it's fair. At some point there has to be a line. So Amanda?
I guess my comment to that is, I know I didn't mean that in a mean way. That came out wrong. Well, the Junior Bridge Academy is important to me, as you know, Dr. Menzo, I've discussed that before with you. I think completely nixing the Family Resource Center would be a mistake, because I know, you know, we do have a large number of Latino families in the community, and, you know, having worked on the board of SCOW previously and working, you know, with some, you know, Latino students, it can be intimidating for that family to come in on their own or to know how to seek out the resources. And you have to understand, you know, those organizations, those nonprofits are also getting their funds cut as well.
That's a good point.
We're not the only ones suffering in this. And I remember the woman that came in and spoke from We Care was saying that they're hurting too financially. So I think having parents involved is one of our goals. It's part of getting to that 100% graduation rate. We need parent participation. And I think that especially if parents aren't involved at a younger age, why are they going to be involved in high school or middle school? I know, at least for me personally, as I, you know, progressed through my academics, my parents were less involved as I got older because I became more self-sufficient. And that was because they were involved. And
And there was no Family Resource Center.
I was also kind of
There wasn't.
but I mean, I guess my point is, I think that's important. I think that's one of our goals, is in pulling parents in and getting them involved. And I feel like in the elementary, you know, age, that's important.
Mike?
You almost said it for me before. I do think there comes a point where the school system can only do so much, and the responsibility has to be on families to do these things and search out what's available for them. Maybe I don't know enough about what a Family Resource Center is supposed to do, but from what I can gather, I do agree that there are a lot of resources in this town, especially this town, that from what I can see, compared to other people that I talk to in other towns, that we have available, that parents can avail themselves to. And I also believe that our schools are very progressive, community-driven. The principals we have, many of the teachers that we have, communication is key, and I think it is going on in our schools to a tremendous I mean, there's the things kids get home today, notices, and Dr. Menzo's things, reports all the time. I just think there are so many resources already available for parents And I just rather see $42,900 spent on something that's, again, more directly affecting the children in the classroom.
And I just also want to say is that I think that these organizations would be willing to find a way. And you also have to remember that we as a school district are limited in what we can request as far as grants, okay? A not-for-profit has more opportunities, and I know this because this was my job, to apply for grants that are kind of more open-ended. So a resource center could be used, for us, we'd have to do something education-wise, right? So the grant would be very limited, but it could be part of some overreaching grant that they have and include as part of advertisement fees. I mean, it's not a lot of money, and I really do feel that if we reach out to these organizations, that they can collaborate, pull together, that they'll work with us, and that these will be actualized, just not right now and not on our dollar. So, Jay?
Just ask, Tammy, in light of her position as the representative for parents throughout the community, I'd just be interested in hearing your follow-up to the feedback that you just heard from the board. How do you feel after all that?
I think Wallingford is unique because as we have lost students, our diversity level has grown. And I echo what Amanda said. Yeah, there might be resources out there in the community, but if you get a single mom who comes to the community, who's working 2 jobs, who's just making ends meet, she's not gonna know, even if she could even get transportation, we don't even have public transportation to our park and rec. So we have people in the community, you know this, we have people in the community who could make it to Scout, who could go be participating there in all the STEM stuff that they do. They can't even make it to Park and Rec for the after-curricular sports because there's no transportation. We need to somehow be able to pull families in to say these are what the resources are. I'm not saying we provide every resource to them in the Family Resource Center, but we don't have the families that we used to have when I grew up. Mom and dad aren't home, we're not sitting down eating dinner 5 days a week. I'm here a lot. I use my crock pot for a lot of my meals. It's not the way that it used to be. And I just think that the value that will give to the community will get dividends on it.
And
It's pay now, pay later.
to Tammy's point, just very quickly, I did some data analysis over the weekend, and I did longitudinal data from 2008-9 to this past year. And we've doubled in free reduced lunch, literally doubled, 630 to 1,253, so almost double, 20.8% of our students. So the thing is that one of the things that the Family Resource Center, as I'm listening to this, might be able to capture some of those lunches, because you could have those conversation with those parents about how they should be.
Also Husky and all
And
that.
Husky. The other thing is diversity. Since 2008, we were at 17.2% diversity, and this year we're up to 25.4%. So again, over 8% increase over that period of time. So I mean, we're definitely, that's the challenge. I think when they say our enrollment has dropped, but it's also changed in a way that the needs are increased. And I think that, what we've made as we've looked through this, and I've looked through all of the hires that we've done over this period of time, because, I get nervous. I'm like, okay, we're going to get criticized because we hired people. But every single hire that we put in place was, like Mike said, the intervention is directly servicing students that we needed to do. It was the EL teachers that Mike was alluding to that we needed to put in place because our EL population blossomed 1 year. I mean, we went up 54 students in 1 year, which was huge for EL population in 2014-15. So we were responsive to the children sitting in front of us. And I just want to say that, and I know I'm going to have an interview with Matt in the newspaper on Wednesday. I'm going to do a webinar or a web thingy or podcast thingy, so you could all bear with me. But the thing is that's what people have to understand, that while our population, we're not going to debate, our population decreased. But while that took place, our population changed, and the needs changed significantly. And I think people just need to pause with that. So I'm not saying yes, no, maybe so about the about the Family Resource Center. I think if we could come to a compromise, that'd be great. But I do want to respect the comments that Tammy made about the change in population, because looking at this data over the weekend, I was like, wow, I knew it had increased, but not to that extent, especially free reduced lunch doubling since 2008. I mean, that's significant.
But we have social workers, we have guidance counselors
True.
in our school system. We have, and we're improving our guidance department.
Mm-hmm.
We did a study to make sure we do.
Yeah, and we've done everything that we said we'd do.
This
Yep.
town hall, I know, has social services available to people in this town. And I'm sure Park and Rec does as well. I mean, we can't provide transportation to places for kids. I mean, I
But we
really
do.
think we need to draw the line. I mean, believe me, I'm all for helping people out, especially parents who are in financial need or their relationship and, you know, one-parent families and stuff like that. But I know there are services out there that are available. And if not enough, there's gotta be a town side to it too. They're a part of it. They all have to buy into it. It can't just be the Board of Education again. It's gotta be a community effort. That's the way I feel.
And Mike, to echo that, we do provide transportation to some places, which is great, like the Boys and Girls Club, which is an awesome service that I wish we could expand. But I think that the organizations that we're talking about, one, would benefit from this relationship because, like you said, there are parents that can't get to the places that they need to go, okay? So by bringing them in, they can connect with the parents in an organic way that a lot of not-for-profits are always looking for new ways. How do I market this? How do I connect with my target population? We have a great change in demographics, which also helps when they're applying for grants to maintain their current funding or to increase their programming. So what we have to offer by being that natural contact point between these organizations and parents and students is great. There's no reason why they can't pay to facilitate that. There's no reason why we should have to be the facilitators when it's something that they already need to be doing. And I really think they'd get on board. I really do. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't.
And I see a lot of families helping out other families too.
Yeah, that's true
There's an
too.
awful lot of that. My grandchildren are involved in all kinds of sports, and you see parents helping other parents, paying for equipment, sharing things, and transporting kids and helping each other out. Not unfortunately, but it seems like that's where most of our kids are spending a lot of the free time. If they're not home playing on their tablets, they are involved in a lot of sports. We do have a lot of teams in this town, and that brings our community together. So I don't know, I just feel that there are so many other things that are going on that can accomplish what this center might be accomplishing. Okay, I won't say anymore.
Roxanne?
But don't forget, this Family Resource Center is really attracting like the preschool population, right? So they're not doing sports like that.
Well,
They're really not doing sports. I
No.
mean, not organized
no,
sports
I'm
at that
just
age.
trying to say that it's a means of communicating with each
Right,
other and helping
right,
each other
right.
out.
But I think what I'm hearing is the argument for them is, you want to scoop them up as early as quickly and get them into the system, our system through our lens as quickly and as early as possible. And that's what my understanding of this resource center would do that. It's really targeting the under 5-year-old population. Am I right in saying
Well, I
that?
think
Don't our kindergartens
But-
communicate with them? With the
Yeah, I
pre-K
don't think
program?
it's just the under 5. I think
But
it's
okay,
it-
that's fair.
because what you'd want to serve is that whole pre-K 5 experience.
Right.
So it's the young. I think
that's
you
what
meant
I'm
under
saying.
5, meaning pre-K, like the little ones,
Well,
the
ye-
3-4-year-olds. That's what I
right,
meant.
anything under the age of 5.
Oh no, I'm saying grade 5.
Oh, okay, that's even better.
So if they expanded, it would be pre-K grade
Through
grade
5, yeah, right.
not just yeah.
Right.
Roxanne, when you say that, if it's that 0 to 3, that's
Mhm.
not our nickel. If we can identify need there, that's the state on birth to 3.
Mhm.
So sometimes people, or sometimes if.
So you don't even know that exists, you're saying, until if they show up at
They
a,
say, oh, I
yeah.
could have had services.
But, right. I still think though, for 21,000, if we can continue mirroring two facilities, two centers, that's a better word, 2 centers. We already have one at Moses Y, and I understand that's kind of a hybrid. It's not, it's not exactly what we want, but it's there. There's some time, and I've heard Rob talk about it. I mean, he's extremely passionate about that. And we could do another one, actually do one on the other side of town for $21,450. I mean, that's not really a huge commitment of money.
It's not about that. It's not just a one-time thing. You're making a statement now. And you really are, about saying it's my responsibility, and we have so
Well,
many.
we've already done that.
But
We've already done that,
How?
because we have one at Moses Y.
But we don't pay for that. Somebody
Well,
else pays for that.
I understand that, Shauna, but trust me, people in the community have no idea on that piece. They just know it's a service provided. To say, oh, it's a service provided, but, the town doesn't, Board of Ed doesn't pay for it, so
But
we're really
I-
lucky to
I
have
don't
this.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, if you put this in the budget, people are gonna know that we're now providing another service at the cost to the taxpayer that could
I'm not
come from
disagreeing with
somewhere
that.
else.
I'm not disagreeing with that statement at all, but all I'm saying is, the fact that we have one at Moses Y, people I don't think the general population discern between, is it paid for by a grant, or is it paid for by Board of Ed, or the municipal, whatever.
I'm sure the majority of people don't look that far into something, but there are people that do, and it is our responsibility as board members to do that.
You want to be transparent.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
And-
I'm not
But even
I
when we
agree.
make these decisions and we put priority placements, or,
Sure.
however you want to describe what we're discussing, when we say that we're now going to take on yet another responsibility and another role and add another burden, because it's not just the staff, it's the added stress on you have people coming into the building, security, scheduling. It's not just the financial number either. There's
Sure.
more to it, and it always grows from there. And I don't feel like we've exhausted the opportunities to find alternatives and get other people in. And I feel
hear
like
you.
if we say right now, especially given the fiscal climate with other items like replacing student Chromebooks, that we're willing to spend, and I know it's not a lot of money, $21,000 on a family resource center, I think you change the conversation too. Yeah, Jay?
May I suggest that we take consensus on an overall number, and then we go through item by item and take consensus until we get to that number on which
Well,
ones
we
are gonna
kinda
make
are
up that
doing
total?
That's what we're doing. We already did that.
We had consensus
On
on
the
a 2.99.
The two, okay, we got
Yeah,
the two.
so we're
Then
kind
can
of
we
there.
just go through item by
So-
item
Yeah,
now
that's
and
kinda
take
where
them?
we're at.
So could we take consensus on,
I mean, because there's gonna be different
Sure.
philosophies, and
Yeah,
that's
agreed,
fine.
agreed.
consensus on early childhood, I'll just go down the roll call. Early childhood coordinator.
Yes.
Amanda? Kathy?
Yes.
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 No?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, next one, instructional coaches. Amanda?
Yes, but it wouldn't be my two.
But would it be in the 2.99?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
This one I'm stuck on, I'm not really sure. Only because I know some teachers are not using the coaches. Did we say that it was gonna be mandatory? It's still not gonna be mandatory for the teachers to use the coaches, is that correct?
We did hear Mrs. Sagnella say that she invited teachers to do it or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's not mandated.
It's not
But if the
mandated.
Principal says. that she
Well, but if
wants
it was
to-
mandated, you'd need more than two, I would think. So actually, it's
Yeah,
kind of,
if it was
Yeah.
mandated, we
yeah,
would need
that, the
about
two wouldn't
6.
cut it for the district.
Right, and you guys, well, and you guys are the experts, if you think that's what we need. All right, I'll say yes.
No.
Think about it, Mike, get back to us. Relax, think about it.
Karen, can I change mine to a no?
Yeah, you can, if you want.
I could fund one instead of the two.
One's not, I mean, seriously, don't bother
Okay, then
funding
no.
one. Okay. 'Cause
I'm a
it's
no.
not, it's not gonna
Yes.
really work.
Yes.
Sean?
I was no.
Okay, so I have
4-3.
3 no's, 4 yeses.
Wait, can I say no? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's a lot of pressure going first.
Start with me, I don't care. I'm
All
good
right,
with
so
it
the
going.
first one was a yes, the second one is a no. Okay, so interventionists. We'll start with Roxanne this time.
Yes,
Yes.
Shauna?
Just give me a second, try to remember what the interventionist does.
they deal directly with kids.
One
I know
on
they
one,
deal
3 to
directly
5.
with kids, but what exactly, and I know you gave it to us, but my brain is blanking out. What exactly was the job description of the interventionist?
Do you want to hit it, Carrie?
Yeah, the
Oh.
interventionist.
Get the mic.
Microphone.
And it doesn't have to be, just highlight really quick, as my brain will jumpstart.
The interventionist provides services for all our students in reading and math who are falling below benchmarks.
Then I'm a yes.
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 All right, so interventionists are a yes. Family resource centers.
Am I going? Yes, for one. And keep the one at DAG, yeah, right, at Moses Y,
Moses
sorry.
Y.
Yes for one and keep the one at Moses Y.
Okay,
No.
Yes, in
For one.
concert with the other
okay,
board members.
No.
No?
Yes for one.
okay, so that passes. So yes, one FRC. Okay.
How much we got left, Sal?
Junior, well, we gotta go back. So Junior
Maybe
Bridge
I like
Academy, Junior Bridge Academy,
Yes.
yes. Kathy?
Why does she get to go first?
Because she liked this one.
I
I have to throw her a bone.
What number what number are we at right now?
Well, because we
Percentage.
took out, now we're actually at a 284. Well, actually, no, excuse me.
No, it's gotta be lower than that.
21450. We're at 282.
Okay, I'll say yes then on this one.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Okay, so yes on bridge, and then the last one, responsive classroom.
for Karen's sake.
Karen, want to go first?
No, for the children's sake.
Karen, want to go first?
Yes.
Mikey?
Yes.
Are we talking both items? The training and the?
Supplies for $14,000.
14.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Back to you, Amanda. I mean, Shauna.
Whoever you are, right? Yes.
Which item is this?
This is actually, this is on the back.
It's the responsive classroom. We took two together. It's 14,000. It's for emotional.
Yes.
These two are.
Yes.
Yes.
And Roxanne?
Yes.
All right, so now we're at 2.82.
I just felt like I was at
No,
school.
we're at 2.82 now? Oh,
Yes.
that didn't make an imprint, the 14,000.
Can I just ask, because
Sure.
there's one item, it's only $8,000, and I know it's really, really low on your guys' priority list.
Which one is it?
The building-based climate activities. And I know it's like, it sounds building-based climate activities. But this is coming from,
You like yoga?
just, it doesn't have to be yoga.
Most
but
likely.
Here's what I'm thinking. Okay, first of all, it's come up a number of years. It's been indicated based on our climate survey, which we're gonna have a presentation on at some point, okay? And my big thing is that we're talking about the people that interact with little people. And little people are stressful, and I think that personally, I'd like to show that there's other ways that we can compensate our staff and create a happy work environment other than pay increases every year. And that's just one side of it. But I think that making sure that they know how to deal with their stress or that they're not stressed will improve children's learning and improve the environment of our schools overall. It's not a die on a hill thing for me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. If you instituted this, would this replace a PD day? Do you have to use PD time for this?
We'd have to either use PD or we'd have to use faculty meeting time.
Yeah,
It'd
see,
be
I can't
voluntary.
support it for that reason right
It'd
there.
be voluntary.
I don't like the fact it's usurping a
I
PD.
didn't-
That would be the only reason, sorry.
Yeah,
And
no,
we
I
are,
can
just so
see
you know,
that.
for
It
your
just-
Yeah.
information, we have mindfulness going on for teachers at a variety of schools. So we're already trying to do that on a voluntary basis. We have Cook Hill, Parker Farms. Moran did it. It was very successful. Moses Y is looking to do it.
I know
We have
Lyman.
Lyman Hall High
Yeah.
School is doing a lot with it.
PD days do something with it?
Well,
That's professional.
we're doing it a lot through voluntary after-school opportunities. They're doing yoga at Lemon Hall, so if you'd like to go.
They really are.
Yes?
Yeah.
I will tell you, we've been doing yoga at some of our specialized programs for years.
Mhm.
We've been talking about it for years. Many of our psychs are trained in yoga and mindfulness activities.
Does it
It's
help?
very effective.
Yeah, and Roxanne, and then.
Well, no, I just have to say this, and then I'll let it go. I think it's a big mistake not to support these instructional coaches. You want to show your teachers that you support them, and you want to give them guidance in the classroom, and to relieve stress, and to help them to be better teachers and more effective teachers. I mean, we heard it firsthand. Those coaches came in and talked to us with such enthusiasm about the work they're doing and the difference they're making, especially for new teachers. But it's ridiculous to compare an $8,000 item to a $150,000 item. I get that.
Yeah.
But obviously, the impact is way greater. I think that's a lost opportunity. But,
But
and I'm done. I'm done.
So, okay, hold on. I don't want to hog, but never mind. All right, Karen first, and then Tammy? Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry. Kathy, your hand was up first, so.
Oh, okay. I just want to make a comment about the musical instrument replacing the $14,000. I think that's been on our,
Well, we get, no,
And
this
I
is
thought
the
it was
second
these-
request. Last year, we gave them,
oh, we did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, then I'm good.
Yeah, we did, they got money last year,
Right,
and I
I know they
just
had some stuff that was
subsidized,
falling
a
apart. and-
purchase
okay,
at Moran too,
That's
so
fine. I'm good then.
we're
Karen,
trying.
I'll have to wait another
Yeah.
year.
Right?
I
that was-
appreciate what you're saying about the instructional coaches, but I'm not convinced that some teachers are availing themselves of the resources we have now, never mind adding additional.
The thing is, though, that right now, even if, and I think this goes back to Roxanne's
Yes, I know.
point, there's beyond a waiting list. So the fact is that regardless, right now, even if those people were availing themselves to it, we wouldn't be able to serve them because the 4 instructional coaches right now are scheduled every moment of the day. And they're doing, the thing is about the instructional coaches, they're saving us money on from bringing in outside resources for professional development. Today, they did a full-day professional development, the 2 English language arts instructional coaches, for a whole group of teachers that if we had to bring somebody in, you're looking at $500 an hour. So, you have a 5-hour professional development, $2,500, which is a lot of money. Again, I understand it. It's something that we went into the direction in Wallingford. It's been going on in other districts for 10, 15 years. Sometimes things take a little longer in Wallingford for it to seed with our staff and with community. And that's fine. So we don't want to lose what we certainly have. That's for certain.
I don't think you could say that, though. Things take a little longer. We have
But when it comes to this,
Yeah, the
but when
internet and town hall works
no,
great.
but when it comes, but Mike, well, no, I think program-wise, I think you're right program-wise. When it comes to professional development, our model has been relatively traditional. And this is, I have to say, there are teachers who don't like this because they have to invite somebody into their room and potentially open themselves up
But that's
to being,
Dr. Menzo, principals have been doing that for years, or they should have been doing it for years.
I'm not disagreeing, but this is different. No, but this is different. You have somebody there with you for the whole day or for a few days. Principal can't be there the whole day and actually assisting you with instruction.
Well,
Can I
we
just add one thing too
disagree.
about the coaches?
Yeah.
For the staff members who may not elect to formally work with a coach, they're still reaping the benefit. At grade level meetings where we're talking about instructional strategies and how to present different material, at faculty meetings when instructional coaches are presenting PD, and just, the more they see their colleagues working and finding success with the instructional coaches, the more they're asking for advice, talking about case studies with them. So while they may not go into the classroom to teach a lesson or co-teach a lesson, they're still seeking out that professional advice from those instructional coaches. And as evidenced by their caseloads, the list of teachers wanting to work with the coaches keeps growing. That's all I wanted to say.
And they have done, you remember, they have done a couple of presentations to the board, and it shows that the teachers who are working with the coaches, their students do achieve at a higher rate, that there has been success rate. So, they've done everything that's been asked of them in terms of providing the data to support their outcomes.
It's actually their presentation that sold me on it. Their enthusiasm and their commitment and, their success stories is what
But
sold me on it.
we're keeping our coaches. We're not,
I know we're
right?
not. I know we are.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
but
that
it just
we're-
sounded a little bit, it got a little scary for a second. I was like, we're not losing coaches.
No, this is just to mitigate the requests that we're not able to meet at this time.
Okay.
Because that's really the challenge, is that we have unmet need on the part of teachers, or unmet, I guess, requests.
Tammy?
This is more of a question. The instructional coaches, they're also guiding teachers on how to use all the technology that we've put into these classrooms, correct?
Yes, they're doing a lot with the assessments, so they're helping with ERLA, they're helping with STAR assessments, they're helping with a lot of the Google opportunities at some of the levels.
Our journey mapping at Highland Yale School this year, and this came from a teacher, the suggestion of what we would focus on as a sister school, is consistent use of technology in all the classrooms, because the teachers themselves raise the fact that you might have a student who's in a very progressive classroom technology-wise one year, and then they may go to one that's not so progressive. Or, worst case scenario, you have a student that goes through several grades with teachers who are not progressive in technology, and then they have to catch up to their peers. So we did a great job putting the technology in, but now we have to be able to give the teachers the tools to teach with it. The touch-ups are fantastic in the elementary school. Some teachers don't even use them.
And I guess, so I don't think anyone up here doesn't believe that there's value in what the coaches do. And this is just speaking for myself right now. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, obviously, but I know they have value, and I think that the presentations were wonderful. And I'm glad that we're seeing such positive results. And I think that for me, ideally, I would love to say, look at this list and let's do everything. The reality is that's not how we live. And I don't know, at least for me personally, if we're getting the best use of our money through this when there's other things that I wonder if we couldn't, where's the balance? That's where I stand on that. Not that they're not valuable or that they don't do a good job, but that's why I personally voted no for that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said, I know Karen had mentioned one, and you said why?
Well, because the challenge is that we try to be equitable across town.
Gotcha.
So the thing is that the person's day would be, if you gave them 2 days on one side of town, 2 days on the other side, you're talking, there's the whole idea of continuity of being a coach. You want to be in the building so you're immersed for a period of time, so you become part of the culture of that building, and it would be very difficult to make that work. I'm sure it's doable. I don't want to say that it's not doable, but it would take a very unique opportunity, and I don't know if we would necessarily get the same value. And I think you'd burn the person out really quickly.
So
if coaches, that ship seems to
that's
sail.
not going to happen.
Do we want to add, I guess I heard before technology. So is there druthers, anybody have the druthers to put $150,000, $150,750 towards technology?
Is that what we're up against? That's what we have left?
Yeah,
Is 150,000?
$750.
That's the exact amount of.
In order to get, that's
To
exact, because you're getting to
2.99.
$299. That's what you.
It is ironic.
So you only took, you took one part out. That's you. If you
Yeah.
took
What are you at now?
I'm at, if without
2.82.
a 2.82 without that, unless you want to approve a 2.82.
Yeah, that's another option.
And what did you want to add?
I said if you want to go back to the 2.99, add 150,750 for technology. Because that was the only other number.
Where's he talking about 750,000?
Well, because I'm just 150, you know what I'm saying?
150,
I'm just taking what you cut for the coaches,
Right.
I'm putting it in, but I'm allocating it to technology. I'm just asking. Because
Generally, like,
it would be
Well,
the
that's for us.
Chromebooks, and then some of it would go towards teacher laptop replacement. Well, that's staff.
what's your objective with the Chromebooks? Like, how many, to you, what's ideal?
Well, what we're looking at right now is that we're at a point where we'd like to see the middle schools this year potentially pilot making certain that every student has access to one during the day. We're there. We have the every student, not to take home at this point, that they're in the school. And then ideally from this point going forward, because of the grants that Karen's been able to procure, to start rolling out a one-to-one at the high school in the fall. But taking it slowly because Karen is only so many staff and she's only so many hair, so much hair on her head that she doesn't want to pull it out all at once. Pull on your head. But we don't want you to go bald. So the thing is that's the goal, is that we're looking to roll that out, because again, it's because of the grants that she's written and because of the fiscal responsibility in terms of purchasing. She's constantly getting the lowest price and getting more bang for a buck. Yeah.
Sorry.
No
I
worries.
was just thinking back about the conversation where we're removing the IT paras, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the concerns was help fixing computers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having removed those, but also knowing that this was on our our strategic plan budget, does that have any effect now in the way we're thinking? Because if we don't do the IT staff, which obviously we're not down there, I guess what I'm saying is when you made that decision, you're probably looking at the picture as a whole, and now that we don't have those people and we're not hiring, where does that leave us in our classrooms, our computer labs?
Well, there are two different purposes. These
Okay.
people are of a different level of capability.
Mm-hmm.
So they're two different classifications. So the IT pairs would not mitigate what this is recommending.
Is
to-
the IT pairs and IT techs the same thing?
No.
No, and
Yeah, I
that's,
was gonna
that's
say, I'm-
part of
Yeah,
what I'm
RT
trying to
techs,
understand.
IT
Gotcha.
techs come from Karen's department. Before we go any further, could I ask that we let Mark Deptula go home and
Oh,
get some
sure.
sleep?
Go home.
All right. And then, Karen, do you want to talk about IT techs?
Well, wait, where's their IT pairs before you do that?
No, IT pairs we cut those already. Those were under sustained
Okay.
services. They were at the 3-5 schools.
Okay, so we're talking about the IT tech support staff.
Sean is just asking clarification on the two
well,
different.
I'm going, I'm confused by your question.
No, okay,
That's why I'm-
so
I just
our
don't
last
get it.
operations committee meeting, the IT teachers were very concerned about the reduction in their IT paras
Right.
because of computer issues.
Right.
So technical
Yeah.
issues was their big concern,
Gotcha.
restarting, rebooting, whatever. And so when I see the word tech support staff for IT techs, my question was, if we're not getting those people and we made that reduction, where does that leave us as far as the
Gotcha now.
classroom with fixing the computers? And then
Gotcha.
there's a difference though, right?
There is a
That's- and
difference.
that's-
Thank you
So-
for clarifying.
No, that's fine.
Right, those were, the IT pairs were assigned to the classroom, so they went with the teachers. These are really break-fix-it, that are handling tickets throughout the district, and obviously would assist us greatly with our one-to-one Chromebook initiative that we're working on. So they are two different positions completely.
So they wouldn't be like in a building, so if I had a computer lab and all of a sudden all my computers crashed, or I couldn't get certain ones to start or whatever, they're not people that are in each school building.
They may be there, but they're typically
would be
not,
lucky.
like, they're not assigned to buildings, so they go where the work is, similar to, like,
They could go
maintenance.
to that building.
They certainly could go, yes.
Okay, thank you. That was it. Thank you.
Is that a big recurring problem, usually, and having computers go down? And there's always troubleshooting going on with computers.
Well, there is. I mean, I would say on a daily basis, my staff is great. They're very responsive. The beginning of the year is probably the toughest time because everything's been unplugged and taken out and cleaned and put back together wrong, or, you know, cords are ripped out or cords are missing. So the beginning of the year is really an incredibly busy time for us, and it takes us a little bit to catch up to those tickets. Once that, you know, goes by, they're very responsive. They get to people. Our technology has really been much more up to date in the last 3 years, and that's really been the funding, both from the state through grants and through the 1% account. So that's helped significantly. We've also weeded out a lot of old technology that we were supporting and sort of band-aiding together, and really that just opens up to more problems. And I personally would rather have, you know, 3 good, reliable computers or whatever they are, Chromebooks, iPads, or whatever devices in a teacher's classroom than 6 that may or may not work, or may be so slow, they get so frustrated. We end up with a lot of tickets, and there's a cost to that. You know, if you're putting parts or you keep sending people out to try to fix something, there's a frustration level. They stop using it because it's not reliable. So I think in the last several years, our technology's been very reliable. Of course, that said, you're always going to have Windows updates, or, you know, right the night before grades are due, Java sends out a new update and teachers can't submit grades. That's always going to happen. But on a day-to-day basis, I think people are pretty satisfied with.
But, and I
the work.
don't think we do enough, and at some point, we probably should have you, and I know how much you love this, but do a presentation on where Karen's brought the department. Because, I mean, there was a concern, she just sent out all the report cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Power School?
Mm-hmm.
And
We did.
And there was, That's the first time we've ever done that. So we saved all of that paper.
Oh,
That is
congratulations.
not
Yes,
an
it's
easy
huge.
task to get to happen.
So
And
that was
her
in-
staff
You
and,
just sent them electronically?
So that was a
well,
new.
and then people who
yes.
needed it paper, we made sure, because there's some people.
Basically
Yep.
electronic.
Yep.
So the middle schools and high school,
That was huge.
middle schools went out the first trimester and high schools went out the second quarter. Electronically, secure document delivery, which is part of our school messenger system. And if you get my 5 a.m. phone calls, it's all part of that same system. So we did a bid, I think it's 2 years ago now, and included that piece. It's working really good. I
on the
mean,
elementary.
the feedback's been good.
No.
Not in the elementary, so.
But I mean, but again, a tremendous amount of savings, efficiency, using a system that we had to pay for anyway, the school messenger to the fullest extent. So I mean, again, that's just one of the many things. But it's also been, slow and steady wins the race with this technology, and that's been part of the process. We took off little bites along the way.
Let's finish this up.
Yep. Sorry, Kathy.
2 questions. With respect, Karen, these are for you. The backlog, the tickets, what's the typical backlog? I mean, do they get responded to within a week, or within 2 days, or within the day?
Some of it depends on what the problem is. If it's like, say, a teacher laptop, we have, except for the beginning of the year when it's crazy, about a 24-hour response time from when we get it. We usually give them a replacement, sort of an advanced replacement, and then we fix theirs, and we have parts and everything else. If it's a little more complicated, it may be 2 days, but it's during the year. Once that backlog gets done, it goes much quicker.
But when you say 2 days, it mean they're working on it for 2 days to fix it,
Yeah,
as
it could
opposed to
be-
getting to it.
It could be a day or two before they get
They
to
get
it.
to
Yes,
it, okay.
yes.
And the more important question is, I'm a teacher and I'm using, I have my my lesson plan for this lesson, and it's all around technology, and nothing's working. Is one of these techs the person who's going to come to my classroom while it's happening to get me fixed and up and running?
So it's possible, but if you're in a 47-minute class, it's not likely unless a tech happened to be, there for something else. So,
Do you think a lot of teachers don't use technology because they're afraid of that scenario where they're going to use it and then it fails, and now what do I do?
I don't think so. I think teachers always have that plan B. I mean,
Okay.
just like I go to do a presentation, I bring in a paper too. I mean, you never know, or you have
And
it.
you're an IT
to-
person.
I know. you gotta have.
I love it.
So I think most of our teachers are very comfortable using technology on a daily basis. I think that we can always expand that use. So I know, Tammy brought up the Touch It TVs. They were new a year ago. Really, we just rolled them out everywhere this past summer, got done. So I think they're being used, but are they being used to their full potential? No, not yet. I think that's still gonna take time, and it's gonna take, one teacher collaborating with another teacher saying, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, okay, show me how you
So
did
like
that.
an
And-
instructional coach could probably provide that information for the teacher. Okay,
I walked
just-
into that one, didn't I?
I had to say that because she opened the door, I had to walk through.
Provided though that
Sorry, I
instructional
had
coach
to
is
do it.
IT
It's all good.
proficient.
So, I mean, it does take a little while to adopt that technology. Another example, we're switching to a new grade book. The grade book is been completely revamped. We decided to let teachers pilot it this year with no PD. If you want to try it, go ahead. We had about 55 teachers volunteer, and they love it. I think I got one complaint out of 55. They all love it. And now we have a built-in bank, so when we push it out to everyone else next year, we have a bank of, trainers basically that have been using it now for a year. We got the bugs out, tweaking everything, and so I think that'll be really successful next year. So we try to do things like that.
Everybody will go on Grade Book? Well, they already are though.
They are.
It's a new
It's a
version of
completely new
PowerSchool.
version, and it's not hard.
No, it was
But
hard
it
to
looks
accept
different.
As a teacher.
It looks
it's tough.
different. Yes. So,
That was a big move.
Yeah, no, Karen's done a nice job with that, and again, doing it voluntarily. It was nice because people owned their decision, and now, you know, they're actually, there's people who are asking, you know, are we definitely going in that direction, because they've seen others, and they like the way the new grade book looks. So, all right, so that goes back to the $150,750 question.
Literally.
Well, and I'll make a comment that I think that we keep in mind technology, because we sometimes think of it as the hardware and the whatever. But it truly is something that touches the kids, because this is the life that they're living in. This is the world they're living in now. So I think those are critically important components of the student touch that we need to make sure we're giving them the appropriate tools and resources to make sure that those tools are kept running. So I would be in support of putting that money toward the technology, either like with one technology, an additional IT tech, maybe one instead of the two that's being requested. I'm sure anything would help, Care. It's not, and then the rest towards Chromebooks or whatever combination, but I would be in support of putting it towards the technology, because I think that really, is a direct impact on the kids.
Middle school do some classes have all Chromebooks at this time?
yes, they do.
And
So.
we'd just like to make them all available for all.
So we're working on a plan. We actually have meetings, ongoing meetings. Yeah, I think we're meeting with the high school tomorrow and the middle schools. So we're developing a rollout plan for a one-to-one initiative at the high school. And at the middle schools, it would look a little different. As Dr. Menzo said, they wouldn't take them home at the middle schools. But we do have, I actually have the inventory right here. We have 601 Chromebooks at Moran, and the population or the enrollment is 677.
Wow.
So, and at DAG we have 600 and the enrollment 730. So we're very, very close to that. Obviously, once you put them in carts, you have to put, say, 28 to 30 in each cart, and a class might be 20 versus 28. So that does increase the numbers.
So how many more do you need at DAG?
At DAG, 130,
How much does that cost?
189.49 each.
200.
So
So
less
So
than
about-
200.
I can't figure that out.
so it's like
Do your thing, Roxy.
People, don't you have a thing on
So
it?
just
$20,000, approximately
Thank you.
20,000.
I was looking for my app. Got it. What did it end up being?
You should have figured.
20,000.
about 25, almost 25.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
with the carrot cart.
Yep.
So.
So we're like we said, we have
We gotta
meetings
do
going on. It's
We're
very, very close.
it's going to, it'll happen. Karen, I can't say enough. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Dr. Menzo. When we do the potluck and the presentation to the council, will we go beyond showing them, if whatever, so we're presenting a 2.99, are we gonna go beyond? I would like us to go beyond
To
and
show
show
them
him
what was
the
left on the
things
cutting-
that, that we
Gotcha.
truly
Was left on the
angst
floor,
over, right, exactly.
Totally gotcha.
Because I think it's important for them to see that too, because who knows, they may feel it's important too, that we do have the coaches, or that we have something else that's on this list.
All right, so I'm just trying to get clarification as to where we stand. And the potluck, for everybody's information, is on Tuesday, March 14th. Tuesday, March 14th. We'll send out the list of,
Things we have to bring.
requests
I'll
for
coordinate
food.
that with you guys.
So, all right, so right now I have on the table, from Kathy, one IT support staff, and the remainder of the funds, which would be about $90,000, going towards technology. So it'd be $67,650 for one of the IT people, and about $90,000 going towards purchase of hardware.
Correct, or, again, I'm flexible with where that money is spent within IT. If Karen feels it's more
I'm good
important to
with
do
that.
the Chromebooks and the
I think
teachers,
she's,
you know, she's good with that?
Right on.
Good,
yeah,
okay.
she's good with that. So do we have any, could we take,
Can I just, one comment?
sure.
So these digital natives learn different than we learned, basically. And you see it, I see
Oh,
it
yeah.
all the time. It's amazing. We go in to do something of a meeting, I'm talking about something, and boom, they've already got out this stuff, they're like 3 steps ahead. We're spending lots of money on technology, we have been spending lots of money on technology. Can we, from a faculty standpoint, pair digital natives with those of us that are beyond digital natives in each of the areas, so
Well-
that we can assure that we're most effectively utilizing this technology for instruction?
I think it's definitely something that we can look into. We actually now have data to show, we did a full survey of our staff, as well as we sent it out to families and students. And we have some much more granular data as to where people are on the continuum, based on what we use in our classrooms. So now that we have that data, we want to take a look at that. We've already talked to, I know that Rosemary, who's here tonight, and Joe have already talked about how we want to look at that with their staff as they move forward next year. So that would definitely be something we would want to definitely look at, because I think that that's what usually when they're from their peers, and we hopefully, you could do some self-selection, but sometimes you do have to,
Yeah, and then conversely,
people.
I mean, there's so much that, but you have a better name than I for the people that are not digital natives. But when we talked about this before, what
oh,
term do you use?
well, you have the immigrants.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, okay,
basically
I
the-
didn't know that that's a good term
Yeah.
these days, but,
Yeah,
okay.
That's true. We don't have.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but anyway, right?
All
just
right, moving
conversely,
along.
Right,
Oh,
conversely,
model
the pairing up, they have that
Yeah,
experience
true.
to
Yep.
benefit from, but
Yep.
that is,
Great.
I have found that is by far the most effective way to get people that are outcome digital immigrants comfortable with effectively utilizing this technology.
Yep.
Is to pair them up with the digital natives.
And give them an authentic opportunity to apply it.
And if
That's
they're
the key
teaching
thing.
the same subject at the same
Exactly.
level.
If I could just add, I was at a workshop last week on one-to-one, so it was IT directors in the state, there were about 25 of us, and it was a panel discussion, and it had so much good information. I would say over half the districts there were already one-to-one. The 4 that spoke from the schools just couldn't say enough good about it. Like, some of the drawbacks and the bugs were things that we can learn from their experience, but worked out, nothing was insurmountable, and they just felt the value was just so worthwhile compared to, the work and the figuring out insurance and protection plans and price lists and damage and all that. It just, the benefits so outweighed any of the negatives, really. They said, do it. If you're not doing it, why aren't you doing it? So it was really, really good.
All right, so actually, I just want to clarify. There would be 67,650 for the IT tech, and then the remainder of the 150,750 plus the 21,450, the other half of the other Family Resource Center person, would make 104,550 towards technology.
104.
104,550, and I'll check my math, later. But
Chromebooks.
it'd be about $100,000 for technology, the hardware, like we had started with, and then about the 67,000 for the IT, the technician.
That's 2 techs?
One tech.
Oh, well,
It's asking for 2, I suggest.
Yeah, I'll give you an updated
yeah, but
version.
you
of it.
show 4 IT techs for 135.
2 of them are already in place.
Oh, 2 hired, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I misunderstood, sorry.
No worries. So is that something we can maybe take consensus on?
Sure. Amanda, we'll start with you.
Yes.
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 No offense, Karen, because this is not a slam against you, but I'm sticking to my coaches, so I'm gonna say no.
Okay. So we have our IT our IT tech, and then $100,000 of hardware.
Not gonna change, it's gonna change anyway.
All right. So that gives us the 2 point, 99 that we were going for. Okay?
Thank you.
So now we need to take
Oh, geez.
just one final consensus on the 2.9%.
Amanda?
Yes.
And if you went with my 3.47, you can
You're
have
right
your
about that.
coaches.
You're right about it. I don't think the coaches would have made it anyway,
Yes.
to be honest with you.
Mike, 2.9?
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Are we adjourned?
Oh, meeting adjourned.
I was